Chapter 371. Miao Yunxiao looked at Gu Nianji nervously, her entire body trembling. Are you serious? You're going to court over something so small? You're tarnishing the school's reputation. The faculty won't support you. Why would I joke about something like that? Gu Nianji shook her head. Oh right, I do need to tell the counselor, but what does it matter if the faculty supports me or not? This is between you and me, I'm the one suing you. Does the faculty care about lawsuits between students? Miao Yunxiao gripped the door handle tightly to keep herself from falling to the ground. Gu Nianji's expression made Miao Yunxiao feel like she could really do something like that, but what did she do wrong? Who told her to have so many loopholes? Classmate? Classmate Gu, I'm begging you, I was wrong this time and I won't do it again. Let's be good classmates and roommates, okay? Miao Yunxiao was in Gu Nianji's shoes and had to bow down. Gu Nianji shook her head with a smile. No. Don't be so unreasonable. Miao Yunxiao was a bit annoyed that Gu Nianji wouldn't budge no matter how she begged. When people were angry they became more courageous. Gu Nianji, you have to be reasonable. It's the first time we've met and we're classmates from the same faculty. Do you have to be so extreme? Miao Yunxiao's expression darkened. If you insist on me moving out, fine, we'll call the counselor first. Call the counselor? Sure. Gu Nianji calmly sat down on the sofa and moved the trash can to the side. Propping up her hand, she said, Do you have the counselor's phone number? Call her right now. It's already very late, can't we do it tomorrow? Miao Yunxiao began to stall. She hadn't figured out who the man behind Gu Nianji was, and her logic and intuition told her to stop messing around with Gu Nianji. Gu Nianji's attitude was so resolute. Either she had a very powerful backer, or she was just a naive girl who didn't know her place. Neither type of person was easy to deal with, and it would be very troublesome to mess with them. Miao Yunxiao couldn't help frowning at her bad luck. Originally, living alone in this big house with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room was quite good. However, halfway through, a roommate came and was not easy to get along with. If he was not careful, he would get into big trouble. Gu Nianji stared intently at Miao Yunxiao and didn't miss a single expression on her face. Is it that late? Gu Nianji raised her wrist to look at her watch. It's not even 5. But the counselor has her own business and we can't keep troubling her, Miao Yunxiao said tactfully. I thought a counselor's job was to take care of us students. That's her real job. How can you say it's troublesome for her to do her job? Gu Nianji laughed and picked up her phone. Forget it. I'll look up her number myself. Okay, I'll call her. Miao Yunxiao had no choice but to give in. She went back to the house to get her phone and called their counselor, Gui Suyao. Miss Gui, it's Miao Yunxiao. We've got some stuff going on in the dorm, can you come over? Miao Yunxiao asked carefully. Gui Suyao, the counselor for B University's postgrad class 1, was in the law department office preparing for the evening meeting. She was the counselor for class 1, so she had to attend the meeting. However, she was also a PhD student in the B University Faculty of Law. She had just been admitted as an in-service PhD student last year and had spent a lot of effort and even used her family's connections to officially become the PhD student of Harvard Law School's Professor He Jichu. He Jichu's students also had a meeting that evening and she didn't want to be absent. He Jichu had only had 4 PhD students in the B University Faculty of Law before, 3 male and 1 female. The female was Gui Suyao. But now that He Jichu had recruited a female master student, the male-to-female ratio had gone from 3:1. Gui Suyao was curious and went to the faculty today to ask for Gu Nianji's file. She read it carefully several times but couldn't figure out what was so good about Gu Nianji. Over 1,000 students had applied to be He Jichu's master student, but he had only chosen 1 person. It was Gu Nianji, who had no family or background and both her parents had passed away. Gu Nianji didn't even have a B University Faculty of Law degree. The Wuxia Empire's legal profession valued school rankings and peer groups the most. The B University Faculty of Law was where the top people in the legal profession came from. Other universities were inferior, such as C University Faculty of Law, which was second only to the B University Faculty of Law. Graduate students from B University had always looked down on graduate students from other schools. Gu Nianji's actions this time had shocked a lot of people. Gui Suyao typed out what she was going to say to Class 1 students that evening and planned to email it to them first. That way she could leave early and still make it to He Jichu's meeting. She was in the middle of her work when Miao Yunxiao called. She didn't want to pick up at first, but when she glanced at the caller ID and saw it was Miao Yunxiao, she had no choice but to pick up. Yunxiao, what happened? Gui Suyao frowned. Did you get into an argument with your roommate? Miss Gui, you're so smart, I did get into an argument with my roommate. Miao Yunxiao paused and looked at Gu Nianji sitting on the sofa. Gu Nianji, the new student who moved in today, had a misunderstanding with me. Miss Gue, could you come over and help me sort things out? Gue Suyao's interest was piqued when she heard it was Gu Nianji. She also wanted to meet Gu Nianji and see what kind of person this girl who made Hijichu look at her in a different light was. She had seen the 1-inch photo on the file, and although she was a very picky person and had seen many stunning beauties, she had to admit that Gu Nianji was a rare beauty. But that was all. Graduate students in the law faculty couldn't just rely on their looks to graduate. They also needed brains, hard work, and real skills. Gue Suyao hurriedly wrote an email about the evening meeting and sent it to Class 1. She said to Miao Yunxiao on the other end of the phone, "Okay, I'll be right there, give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, Gue Suyao arrived at Miao Yunxiao and Gu Nianji's dorm and knocked on the door. Miao Yunxiao opened the door with an obvious sigh of relief. "Miss Gue, you're so punctual." Gue Suyao smiled. "Punctuality is God's virtue. I always plan my time to the fullest and race against time." Miao Yunxiao led Gue Suyao inside. Gu Nianji stood up from the sofa. Miao Yunxiao introduced them. "Miss Gue, this is Gu Nianji. Gu Nianji, this is our counselor, Miss Gue." Gue Suyao studied Gu Nianji carefully and saw that she only wore a very simple cashmere sweater and trousers. She didn't have any makeup on, but her fair skin was so tender it almost seemed like it was dripping water. Her large eyes were black and white with slightly sunken eye sockets that made her eyelids look large and deep. Her eyes were like an ancient well, calm and unfathomable. This girl was not simple. Gue Suyao also labeled Gu Nianji in her mind the same way Miao Yunxiao did. "Hello Miss Gue, I'm Gu Nianji." Gu Nianji gracefully extended her hand to Gue Suyao. Gue Suyao shook her hand and smiled. "Hearing about you is not as good as meeting you in person. Classmate Gu is much prettier than this profile photo." Gu Nianji felt a bit awkward. It was this young female counselor who took out her file from the department's archives and passed it around for everyone to see. Gu Nianji felt like her privacy had been severely violated. It was as uncomfortable as being stripped naked in broad daylight. "Miss Gue, we asked you here today to discuss classmate Miao's moving to the dorm." Gu Nianji suppressed her displeasure and tried to be polite and objective about what had just happened. Miao Yunxiao listened in silence, her face flushed red. Gue Suyao listened to Gu Nianji's account and looked at Miao Yunxiao in surprise. "Yunxiao, is that so? You can't just keep quiet." "She already said it, what else can I say?" Miao Yunxiao looked away, her eyes red. "If I've said anything wrong you can add or correct." Gu Nianji thought Miao Yunxiao was too dramatic. She had just compared her family background with her and now she was acting pitiful. Gue Suyao patted Miao Yunxiao's back. Okay, we're all in the same class. What a coincidence to live in the same dorm. In my opinion it's not a big deal. Both of you should take a step back and turn a big problem into a small one and a small one into nothing. That's it, okay?" Miao Yunxiao looked down and nodded lightly. "I'll listen to Miss Gue." "That's right." Gue Suyao was very satisfied with Miao Yunxiao's attitude and turned to Gu Nianji. "Gu Nianji, you should take a step back too. Yunxiao has already apologized to you and you didn't lose anything. Just let it go." Gu Nianji raised a brow and pointed to the trash can next to the sofa. "Didn't lose anything? Miss Gue, it's my first day at school and I lost so many skincare and makeup products. You're saying I didn't lose anything?" Gue Suyao smiled at her. "You just said that you threw it into the trash yourself. You can't blame it on Yunxiao, can you?" Gu Nianji saw that the teacher was obviously taking sides and didn't want to be polite. "Miss Gue, I'm afraid you're reversing cause and effect." "I'm reversing cause and effect? Are you saying I'm illogical?" Gue Suyao was even more amused. "Classmate Gu, you're really a newborn calf that's not afraid of tigers. You're brave enough to say and do anything." "No, I'm just being reasonable." Gu Nianji stood up. "Since Miss Gue says so, I'll have to call the police to check fingerprints." "Fingerprints?" Gue Suyao's expression turned serious. "Gu Nianji, it was Yunxiao's fault to go to your room when you weren't around, but it shouldn't be enough to call the police, right? You were the one who threw these things. You said it yourself." This was the second 3,000-word update. It was the Immortal Book Fate added update for Huai Xian Mine. A reminder for the monthly and recommendation votes. 7 p.m. of the third update. Moi. Chapter 372. I threw it myself, but why did I throw it? That was because she had touched these things. She snuck into my room when I wasn't around and who knows what she did to these things? I don't dare use them again. Gu Nianji spread her hands and continued. 3 years ago, a serious criminal case happened at a university. Did you guys hear about it? What criminal case? There are so many cases at the university, who knows which one you're talking about? Miao Yunxiao looked at Gui Suyao with displeasure. Miss Gui, don't you think she's going too far? Not only did she want me to move out, but she also wants to sue me. Gui Suyao's heart skipped a beat and her expression turned serious. She recalled a case that indeed started from a roommate argument. Then, one of the dissatisfied roommates dripped something into their roommate's skincare products, which caused serious burns on the face of that roommate and completely disfigured her. Miss Gui, you must remember now? Gu Nianji relaxed a little. That case started from a roommate argument and ended with one serving over 10 years in prison and the other being disfigured and permanently disabled. Miao Yunxiao's heart sank when she saw Gui Suyao's expression change. Her face turned from red to white as she looked back and forth between Gu Nianji and Gui Suyao. Miss Gui, what case are you guys talking about? You don't remember? Even I almost forgot. Gui Suyao's expression grew more serious. Classmate Gu is right. She looked at Miao Yunxiao. How did you get the key to classmate Gu's room? Are you going to take all the responsibility if something happens to her? Miao Yunxiao was extremely embarrassed. She had thought she would be living alone in the suite, so she had asked the dormitory tutor for the key to the other room. Miao Yunxiao was supposed to return the key when Gu Nianji came to report in, but she wanted to continue living alone, so of course she wouldn't return it so easily. It's great that Miss Gui remembers the case so I don't have to waste my breath. Gu Nianji was indeed a bit thirsty after speaking so much. Miss Gui, please wait for a moment, I'll be right back. Gu Nianji got up and walked back to her room. She took out 2 bottles of water from the small refrigerator and handed one to Gui Suyao. Miss Gui, please have some water. Gui Suyao took the bottle of water but didn't open it right away. After a moment of silence, she said to Miao Yunxiao, Yunxiao, you really crossed the line today. But I already apologized. Miao Yunxiao was on the verge of tears as she pointed at Gu Nianji. Do you really want me to move her away before you stop? Gui Suyao looked at Gu Nianji and saw her determined expression. Gui Suyao couldn't persuade her further and finally said to Miao Yunxiao, I think classmate Gu's request is very reasonable. As long as you move out, you'll be able to avoid a lawsuit. Think about it, don't you agree? From this point of view, moving out was not an unacceptable thing. However, B University's graduate student dormitory was a 2-person dormitory with its own bathroom. The other dormitories had 4 people sharing one bathroom. Although the cost of accommodation in this building was much more expensive, everyone still fought to stay here. If she moved out, it would be very difficult to stay here again. Gui Suyao was also in a dilemma. Finally, she said, how about you ask other students if they're willing to switch dormitories with you? She then asked for Gu Nianji's opinion. Classmate Gu, what do you think? Would you be willing if someone else lived with you? Gu Nianji thought about it and nodded. Sure, as long as classmate Miao moves out and doesn't live with me. Who she lives with has nothing to do with me. Gui Suyao sighed in relief. Her opinion of Gu Nianji had changed a lot. Although this girl was stubborn, she wasn't unreasonable and didn't know how to bend the rules. She now understood why He Jichu chose Gu Nianji to be his master's student out of thousands of people. Okay, go ask who's willing to switch dormitories with you now. Gui Suyao said to Miao Yunxiao, hurry up and find someone. We'll move tomorrow. No, I'll move tonight. Gu Nianji didn't want to stay with Miao Yunxiao for even one night. Since Miao Yunxiao couldn't control her mouth or legs, Gu Nianji would help her by reminding her not to be too nosy and stick her hands too far into other people's pockets. This would also be a lesson for Miao Yunxiao. Gui Suyao sighed and said to Miao Yunxiao, you move today. Don't delay it anymore. You have to move anyway. But who am I supposed to find to switch dormitories in such a short time? Miao Yunxiao's nose turned sour and she actually started crying. The 3 people in the living room didn't speak for a while. Only Miao Yunxiao's occasional sobs could be heard. Gui Suyao waited for a while before asking Gu Nianji, classmate Gu, no, she has to move today. Gu Nianji said firmly, based on what she's done, it's more than enough to sue her in court. I'm only asking her to move now. If she's going to make excuses, then why should I back down? Her words were so convincing that Gui Suyao was almost speechless. Miao Yunxiao wiped her tears and was about to speak when someone knocked on the door. She turned around to see Gu Nianji already saying, come in. The door opened and the other girl Gu Nianji had seen in the elevator poked her head in to ask, do you guys want dinner? She then saw Gui Suyao was also there and stuck her tongue out mischievously, oh, I didn't see Miss Gui here too. Chichi, come on in. Gui Suyao's heart skipped a beat and called her in. Yunxiao wants to switch dormitories. Are you willing to switch with her? Why would I want to switch dormitories all of a sudden? Ma Chichi looked at Miao Yunxiao and then at Gu Nianji to see one was crying and the other had a sullen expression. She instantly understood. If you guys don't mind, I don't mind either. Ma Chichi smiled as she took Miao Yunxiao's hand and then Gu Nianji's. Okay, if you guys don't want to stay together, you can switch with me. My room is diagonally across from here. Miao Yunxiao and Gui Suyao were very happy that Ma Chichi agreed to switch dormitories without hesitation. Gu Nianji had a good impression of Ma Chichi and her straightforward personality suited her, so she didn't object and only reminded her, "You have to finish moving before going to bed tonight." Then she asked Miao Yunxiao for her room key. Miao Yunxiao said coldly, "I have to return the key to the faculty. If I didn't mention it, you wouldn't have remembered to return the key. I don't want to worry every day about whether someone has snuck into my dorm." Gu Nianji looked at Gui Suyao. "Miss Gui, I want to change the lock. The faculty is so lax in their management that I'm worried about my safety." This time it was 100% Miao Yunxiao's fault and no one could clear her name. Miao Yunxiao couldn't keep her face straight anymore and embarrassed herself in front of Ma Chichi again. She burst into tears and ran to her room. Gu Nianji called after her, "You have to remember to move even if you're crying." Ma Chichi giggled and said to Gu Nianji, "I didn't think you'd be so interesting. I'm looking forward to living with you now." Gu Nianji took her hand. "New roommate, let's have a good time living together." Gui Suyao saw that the two of them were already friends and couldn't help being amused. "You still have to go to the faculty to complete the paperwork to change dormitories. Chichi, you and Yunxiao can come to my office tomorrow to get the paperwork, then go to the faculty office to reapply for the dormitories." "Okay, Miss Gui, I'll go tomorrow." Ma Chichi went to pack her things. Gui Suyao also said, "That's all, I'll be going now." She and Ma Chichi left the dorm together. Gu Nianji looked at Miao Yunxiao's tightly shut door and bent down to pick up the trash can and put it in her room. Miao Yunxiao began packing as soon as she returned to her room. Luckily the two dorms were close, so she and Ma Chichi helped each other and finished moving everything by 6 p.m. Ma Chichi was now living in Miao Yunxiao's old room and Miao Yunxiao was living in Ma Chichi's old room. When Gu Nianji came back from dinner, she saw that her roommate had changed from the lifeless Miao Yunxiao to the energetic Ma Chichi. Ma Chichi was about the same height as Gu Nianji at around 1.7 meters with slender eyebrows and handsome eyes. Her hair was combed into a ponytail and she had an indescribable heroic air about her. "You finished moving already?" Gu Nianji greeted her with a smile and asked, "I have some snacks, do you want some?" "I'm going to eat dinner, so I won't eat these snacks. But you can keep some and we can eat together when you come back tonight." Ma Chichi took a small piece of pea cake from Gu Nianji's hand and put it in her mouth to take a sip. The cake almost melted in her mouth and was delicious. She hummed and closed her eyes to enjoy the delicious taste. It was only a small piece of pea cake, but she looked drunk from the way she ate it. Gu Nianji laughed and asked her, "You like pea cake too?" "I like all kinds of glutinous things." Ma Chichi expressed that not only pea cake, but she also liked rolling donkey bean cakes unique to the Northeast and sticky bean buns. Gu Nianji listened intently. "Sticky bean buns? It sounds delicious just from the name. You like to eat glutinous things too?" Gu Nianji nodded. "I like it, but I can't eat too much. It'll make my stomach hurt." "As long as there's good food, who cares if my stomach hurts? I'll only know after I eat it anyway," Ma Chichi said excitedly and sat across from Gu Nianji. She ate another piece of rolling donkey before standing up. "Where did you buy these little cakes? I've never had such delicious pea cake and rolling donkey before. I've wasted my last 20 years. Gu Nianji giggled at her teasing and said, "My friend bought them for me. I'll ask him where he bought them when I have time." "Okay, you must remember to tell me." Ma Chichi said seriously, "I can only let good food and beautiful women down in my life. Beauty, you must remember to tell me where to buy good food." It was the third watch. "Let me remind you about the monthly votes and recommendation votes. Moi. Chapter 373. You're exaggerating. Gu Nianji smiled until her eyes curved into 2 crescent moons. She covered her mouth with her hand, and the back of her hand was as white as jade. Her originally pure eyes narrowed and slanted because of her smile, and there was a hint of seductiveness in them that made them look watery. Although Ma Chichi was a woman and a straight woman at that, her heart skipped a beat when she saw it. She shook her head and covered Gu Nianji's eyes with a smile. "Demon. You're too demon. Nianji, don't look at me with such seductive eyes again. Be careful that I don't turn gay." Gu Nianji couldn't hold it in anymore and laughed until her stomach hurt. The two of them joked around in the living room, and their laughter traveled all the way to the hallway. A classmate from next door poked her head in to look and laughed. "Oh, it's really different now that someone else is living here. This house used to be so lifeless, and everyone had to tiptoe when passing by, afraid to disturb Her Highness's fragile nerves." Gunyanji was speechless. Who was she talking about? Ma Chichi walked over to push the girl's head and laughed. "You talk too much. It's not as ridiculous as you make it out to be. Alright, I think you have to speak at the class meeting tonight. Are you ready?" "Oh, I forgot. Thanks for the reminder, Chichi." The girl quickly slipped back to her dorm. Gunyanji glanced at Ma Chichi and felt that not only was she straightforward, but she also didn't like to talk behind people's backs. She was indeed a good girl with a good character. Ma Chichi turned around, but Gunyanji had already looked away. She said to her, "The cafeteria is about to close. Aren't you going to eat?" "Oh, I forgot. I had too much fun eating the pea cake." Ma Chichi almost jumped up as she spoke. She rushed to her room to grab her purse and rushed out the door. Gunyanji couldn't straighten her back from laughing and slumped on the sofa alone. After a long time, she realized that her cheeks were a bit stiff. She had been smiling the whole time. The sky gradually darkened. Gunyanji looked at her watch. It was already 7 o'clock. Hijichu's meeting was reportedly pushed to 8:30 to accommodate one of his doctoral student schedules. Class 1's meeting started at 7:30. After dinner, Ma Chichi would go straight to Class 1's classroom for the meeting. This meant that Gunyanji would have an hour to herself. She got up from the sofa and went to her room to continue organizing her books and clothes. Not long after, Hu Xiaoheng's phone suddenly rang. She hurriedly got up from behind the desk and ran to the bed to get her phone, but she tripped over the stool in the middle of the room. She rolled on the ground and almost rolled forward to the side of the bed. She grabbed her phone from the edge of the bed and hurriedly swiped it open. "Hello," she panted. "Is this Hu Xiao?" Hu Xiaoheng held a cigarette in one hand as he sat on the balcony of the suite on the second floor of the official residence, lost in thought. There was a cup of tea on the small coffee table beside him, as well as an oval sky-blue porcelain saucer with 2 small tea pastries on it. Hu Xiaoheng didn't like this kind of sweet and sticky taste, but she wasn't by his side. Seeing what she liked to eat made him feel better. Taking another bite of the tea was as intoxicating as the taste of her in his mouth. "Nianji." Hu Xiaoheng's voice came from the phone. It was low and magnetic like a cello by the stream at night. Mixed with the steam, it was intoxicating. Gunyanji panted and said, "Hu Xiao? Have you had dinner?" "Yes, have you eaten?" Hu Xiaoheng rubbed his fingers around the sky-blue porcelain saucer and listened carefully to Gunyanji's voice. He realized she was slightly panting. "What's wrong? Did you just exercise?" "No, I was in a hurry just now and tripped. I'm sitting on the floor now to call you." Gunyanji laughed and sat cross-legged on the corner of the bed. "Hurry? What's the hurry?" Hu Xiaoheng held a cigarette in his hand and shook the ash in the ashtray. "If it's urgent, then I'm hanging up." "No." Gunyanji panicked. "I tripped and fell because I was in a hurry to answer your call. If you hang up again, wouldn't I have tripped for nothing? So you're blaming me?" Hu Xiaoheng's low chuckle came from the phone like a small hand playing with her earlobe. Gunyanji covered her pounding chest with her hand and thought to herself, "Hu Xiao, can you tease me a little more? Tease me a little more or I'll eat you up." "Of course it's your fault," Gunyanji said angrily. "If you called me more often, I wouldn't be so flustered when I hear your phone ring." The corners of Hu Xiaoheng's lips curled up imperceptibly. He deliberately teased her. "Things are precious when they are rare, so you should call even less in the future." "No way." Gunyanji panicked and stood up abruptly. The bruise on her leg hit the corner of the bed again, and she finally couldn't help but groan. Hu Xiaoheng's smile quickly faded and he also stood up. "Nianji? What's wrong?" Gunyanji was in so much pain that she couldn't speak for a long time. She gripped the phone tightly and rubbed her leg as she slumped on the bed. After a long time, she finally said in a muffled voice, "The bruise just now hit again." Hu Xiaoheng was speechless for a long time before reprimanding her quietly. "Looks like your training will have to resume again. You're staggering in your own room. How long has it been since you last trained? How long has it been since you last ran?" Gunyanji cried internally. She wanted to hang up, but she couldn't bear to. Her expression was very conflicted. She simply clutched the bruise on her leg and whimpered. "It hurts. My leg hurts so much. Sob sob sob." "It's bruised and swollen." Hu Xiaoheng understood Gunyanji's little trick very well. She was deliberately changing the topic and exaggerating the pain to make his heart ache. "It really hurts?" It really hurts. It hurts so much. Look, it's all swollen. Gu Nianji rolled up her trousers and revealed her fair calf. The bruise in the middle of her calf was very obvious. Gu Nianji turned on the camera on her phone and took a photo to send to Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiaoheng looked at the photo, his expression still calm. It's only a little bruise. It's nothing. Stop pretending. If you keep pretending, I'll bring you back. You'll have to run 10 kilometers of cross-country every day and do physical training. The same intensity as the special forces. Hua Xiaoheng had to admit that he knew Gu Nianji too well. As soon as she heard this, she immediately pulled down her trousers and walked around the room. Kicking her legs, she said, Hua Xiao, it's fine. I'm fine really. I just walked around the room a few times and nothing happened. Don't worry about me anymore. Just work hard and protect the country. There's nothing for you to worry about here. Hua Xiaoheng's smile gradually widened. Yeah, it doesn't hurt anymore? It doesn't hurt anymore, it doesn't hurt anymore. It's just a little bruise. I'll apply some ointment and it'll be fine tomorrow. Gu Nianji patted her legs and pretended to be very proud. That's good. Hua Xiaoheng lay back on the rattan lounge chair and looked ahead quietly. The night was dark and cold. The night sky was dotted with stars and the forest in the distance was bleak. Only a rough outline could be seen. He looked up at the night sky and finally said, Nianji, do you remember the name Gu Xiangwen? Gu as in caring, Xiang as in auspicious, and Wen as in writing. Gu Xiangwen? Who's that? Gu Nianji had no idea what Hua Xiaoheng was talking about. Does it have anything to do with me? Because her surname was also Gu, and Hua Xiaoheng specifically asked, Gu Nianji couldn't help but think in that direction. Is he my relative? Gu Nianji asked again. She thought hard and searched her memory repeatedly, but she couldn't find the name, Gu Xiangwen. Hua Xiaoheng knew this name because Gu Nianji had said it while unconscious during the bone marrow transplant surgery for Song Jining. When she woke up, she couldn't remember what she had said at all. Hua Xiaoheng was the only one present at the time and heard her mention the name. Because it was an important matter, he only told Zhao Liangzi and Yin Shixiang. He couldn't tell anyone else, so he didn't even have someone to discuss it with now. Hua Xiaoheng lay on the wicker chair with one arm across his forehead to cover his eyes. The other hand was still holding a cigarette. He hadn't smoked in a long time, so the cigarette ignited silently in the darkness and lit up little by little. Nianji, you really don't remember knowing someone called Gu Xiangwen? Hua Xiaoheng thought about it for a while and asked, This is very important. Gu Nianji closed her eyes and entered a meditative state. Her mind was blank as she tried to search for the parts of her memory that she had lost. After a while, she opened her eyes and took the phone to see that it was still connected. She said, Hello, Hua Xiaoheng, are you still there? Yeah. Hua Xiaoheng's voice sounded tired. Do you remember? Gu Nianji was now certain that it had something to do with her lost memory, but she really couldn't remember anyone with this name. She asked carefully, Hua Xiaoheng, can you give me more clues so I can think about it? How would she connect the dots if he only gave her a name? More clues? Hua Xiaoheng repeated Gu Nianji calmly. Yes, there are more clues. For example, how old is he, where he's from, what he looks like, what he does for a living, etc. Gu Nianji rubbed her leg as she got up. Looking at her watch, it was already past 8. She had to get ready to go to Hejichu's for a meeting. Hua Xiaoheng didn't say anything. If he knew how old Gu Xiangwen was, where he was from, what he looked like, and what he did for a living, why would he ask Gu Nianji? Gu Nianji looked in the mirror and realized that she had just fallen and wrinkled her pants. It would be very rude to wear it out. She held her phone in one hand and took off her cashmere sweater and trousers with the other. She changed into a thick cashmere dress, put on thermal stockings and put on a pair of boots. At the same time, she packed her wallet, keys and small laptop into a backpack. When she was done, she realized that Hua Xiaoheng was still silent. She quickly asked, Hua Xiaoheng? Hua Xiaoheng snapped out of his daze. What's up? I have to go to a meeting. Gu Nianji looked at her watch. There's still 10 minutes left. I have to run over. This was the first 3,000-word update. Today, I'll continue with the monthly and recommendation votes of the marriage seekers at the third update. The second update was at 2 in the afternoon to add 2 updates for the Heaven's Little Beggar promotion. The third update was at 7 in the evening. Moi. Chapter 374. Okay, go do what you need to do. Hua Xiaoheng paused. I'm hanging up now. He hung up without hesitation. Gu Nianji anxiously said, hello, a few times, but when she realized that Hua Xiaoheng had hung up without hesitation, she sighed speechlessly. For Hua Xiaoheng, relationships really weren't his forte, Gu Nianji smiled as she put her phone in her backpack and carried it downstairs. Hua Xiaoheng put his phone on the small coffee table beside him and closed his eyes as he lay on the wicker chair, lost in thought. It wasn't even the 15th of the first month yet, so the nights in the imperial capital were extremely cold. However, Hua Xiaoheng didn't feel cold at all. He lay on the wicker chair and closed his eyes to rest. The cold air calmed his mind and allowed him to think without any external disturbances. A lot of things circled around in his mind. They seemed random and unrelated, but he always vaguely felt that there was an invisible thread that connected seemingly unrelated people or things together. However, he couldn't figure out what this connection would lead to. But he didn't have much time left. If he still didn't have a clue, everything about Gu Nianji might no longer be under his control, and he might have no choice but to hand her over. His fingers unconsciously tapped on the wicker chair, and the tapping sound echoed rhythmically in the night air. Gu Nianji carried her backpack and hurried through the streets of B University. She recognized the location of Hijichu's professor's building, so she arrived in less than 10 minutes. She told the guard Hijichu's name, and the guard had her sign before saying, "Professor, he is waiting for you for a meeting." Gu Nianji was shocked and asked, "He's waiting for me alone?" "Yes, he just called to ask if you're here." Gu Nianji rushed into the elevator and thought to herself, didn't he postpone the meeting because of a PhD student? Why is everyone here before 8:30? What a scam, Gu Nianji muttered to herself as she took the elevator to the 28th floor. Hijichu's room was to the left of the elevator. When Gu Nianji came out of the elevator, she saw Hijichu on the phone in the hallway. He stood with his side facing the elevator. He was wearing a very casual light blue cashmere pullover, revealing the white collar of his shirt and dark brown trousers. The seams of his trousers were so straight that they looked like they had been cut with a paper knife. He had one hand in his trouser pocket and the other holding his phone. The expression on his face was very cold, and his thin lips were tightly pursed. He had a stern aura. Gu Nianji smiled sheepishly and greeted him softly. "Professor He." Hijichu saw Gu Nianji as soon as she came out of the elevator. He hung up the phone and turned to look at her. His shimmering peach blossom eyes were calm, and there was no longer the hostility they had when they last met. Gu Nianji calmed down a little and said, "Professor He, I'm not late, am I?" She raised her wrist and looked at her watch. "It's only 8:30. Hijichu glanced at her watch and froze for a full minute before saying, "Your watch looks very unique." Gu Nianji touched her wrist and discreetly pulled down the sleeves of her dress to cover her watch. "It's all right. It was a gift from someone. I only accepted it because it looked very elegant." A sharp look flashed across Hijichu's eyes. Before Gu Nianji looked up, Hijichu's eyes had already returned to their usual coldness. He turned to walk to his room. "Come in. We were waiting for you." Gu Nianji jogged to catch up to him. She was neither too close nor too far away from him. Her smile was bright and clear. Hijichu quietly turned his head away and opened the door to enter. As soon as the door opened, voices could be heard from inside. "Is Professor He here?" "I rushed over after the class meeting. I didn't think I would be the last one." The first voice was a woman's. Gu Nianji thought it sounded somewhat familiar. "Where's little sister? Didn't you say she was coming today?" The second voice was a forthright man's. His voice was a bit rough, but his voice was deep and not unpleasant. "You don't want little sister this and little sister that. Do you think you're Ling Hu Chong?" Gu Nianji recognized Brother Huang's voice immediately. She pursed her lips and smiled. Hijichu's cold expression happened to turn around. When he saw Gu Nianji smile, he couldn't help but smile as well. He quickly realized it was inappropriate and turned to walk straight into the room. He crossed his legs and sat down on the large single-seater sofa. There was a circle of sofas in the middle of the living room. Hijichu's large sofa was at the head. There were corner sofas on both sides and a rectangular coffee table in the middle. Two people sat on the sofas on either side of the coffee table. They must be Hijichu's doctoral students. On the left were two men. One was Brother Huang, whom Gu Nianji was familiar with. On the right was a man and a woman. The woman was the counselor Gu Nianji had met in the afternoon, Gue Suyao. Gu Nianji didn't bother to greet Brother Huang. She stared at Gue Suyao with a blank expression. Hijichu shifted on the large single-seater sofa and crossed his legs. He said to Gu Nianji, "What are you standing there for? Come and sit." But where was she going to sit? Gu Nianji didn't know whether to enter or leave the room. She awkwardly raised her hand in greeting. "Hi, hello." Brother Huang stood up and introduced Gu Nianji to the other three. "This is the little junior sister I told you about, Gu Nianji. She just turned 18 last November. She's smart and quick-witted. She's a true genius and most importantly she's beautiful. That's rare. Yes. She could have made a living with her face, but she had to compete with her IQ. Little sister, I feel like I don't deserve to live after seeing a fairy sister like you. The man sitting next to Brother Huang said exaggeratedly. He was the first man Gu Nianji heard when she entered the room. It was a bit rough but not annoying. Before Gu Nianji could speak, Brother Huang punched the man. Wipe your saliva off your face. Not every man with the Duan surname has the right to be Duan Jingchun. I don't want to be Duan Jingchun. Can't I be Duan Yu? The man leaped over and extended his hand to Gu Nianji. Hello little sister. I'm Duan Chun. Not the flirtatious Duan Jingchun but the mellow Chun. I'm honest and reliable. I'm a PhD student at the B University Faculty of Law. I'm a practicing lawyer at the JD Law Firm. The firm is considering promoting me to senior. I'm 28 this year. Little sister, do you have a boyfriend? The man spoke like beans from a bamboo tube. He didn't wait for the others to speak before spilling the beans. Gu Nianji couldn't help laughing. The awkwardness and restraint from earlier were all gone. She shook the man's hand. Hello, Brother Duan. Please take care of me in the future. No problem. Of course I'll take care of you. But little sister, you're really good at changing the subject. I clearly asked if you have a boyfriend. You should at least give me a definite answer. Brother Duan teased. Don't tell me I scared you. Get out of my way. Brother Huang kicked Brother Duan aside and led Gu Nianji to the seat directly across from Hijichu. Sit here. Ignore that Duan guy. He's used to spouting nonsense. Gu Nianji cocked her head and smiled. No, I know Brother Duan is joking. I won't take it seriously. They joked around for a while. The man sitting next to Gui Suyao also introduced himself. He said his last name was Wei. Gu Nianji greeted him. Brother Wei. She nodded at Gui Suyao, who had been studying her the whole time. I didn't think Miss Gui was also Professor He's student. Oh. Brother Huang froze. What's going on? Little Gui, you're Nianji's teacher? I'm not an official teacher. Gui Suyao explained with a smile. I'm a counselor for the post-grad class in the Faculty of Law. Nianji happens to be in that class. Oh, I see. Brother Huang nodded. That's good. Otherwise, how would the seniority be calculated? Ah, that's right. Nianji is both our professor, his student, and his disciple. Ah. Brother Duan let out an even louder burst of laughter. Gu Nianji thought this person was very interesting. He didn't have the usual restraint and self-discipline of a lawyer. Instead, he was very unrestrained. Of course, this was all just a facade. He wasn't actually what he looked like on the inside. As they studied Gu Nianji also studied them. When they were done, Hijichu said to Gu Nianji, we're all classmates now. Don't be shy. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask them if I'm not around. Gu Nianji nodded. Okay, Professor Hijichu then turned to his doctoral students. 2 of you are graduating this year. We already finished the topic for your graduation thesis last year. The first draft must be ready before February. He was referring to Brother Huang and Brother Duan. The 2 of them stopped laughing and nodded solemnly. Professor we're already working on it. We'll definitely have the first draft by the end of February. Hijichu then looked at Brother Wei. You're in the 2nd year. You should also start choosing the topic for your doctoral thesis. Don't wait until next year. Got it? The man nodded. Hijichu finally looked at Gui Suyao. You're in the 1st year. I'll have little Huang and little Duan give you a few cases. You can make a plan first. Gui Suyao asked enthusiastically, Professor do you have any good professional books that you can recommend to me? Little Huang has a book list that I gave him. They all look at that list to find books. Hijichu pursed his lips and propped his forehead with one hand. His tall and handsome figure exuded an indescribable charm under the lights. Gui Suyao looked away. She didn't dare look at Hijichu. It was the 2nd night watch, the first added update for the leader of the beggars in heaven. Let's remind our friends about the monthly and recommendation votes. 7 p.m. of the 3rd night watch. Chapter 375. Gui Suyao turned to see that Gu Nianji was also looking at her and nodding with a smile. Embarrassed, she stood up and said to Gu Nianji, what do you want to drink? I'll get it for you. Thank you, Sister Gui, I want coffee. Gu Nianji also stood up. I'll help you. Hijichu frowned. Nianji, why are you drinking coffee so late at night? There's milk in the fridge, heat it up in the microwave before drinking. The corners of Gu Nianji's mouth twitched as she muttered unhappily, "I'm not a child anymore, I don't even have the right to drink coffee." Gui Suyao shot her a look and whispered, "How dare you talk back to Professor He?" "How did I talk back?" Gu Nianji wanted to sew her mouth shut with a needle. From now on, in front of Hijichu, she had to behave like a tree or a vase, the kind that didn't know how to talk so she wouldn't get into trouble. Gui Suyao took her by the arm and led her to Hijichu's kitchen. She skillfully opened the fridge and took out a bottle of fresh milk, followed by Coke and tea bags. Gu Nianji took the fresh milk and heated it in the microwave for 2 minutes before taking it out. She poured it into a glass to drink and warm her hands. She watched as Gui Suyao skillfully took out an exquisite ceramic jar with bluish-purple glaze from the cupboard and poured a small plate of coffee into the automatic coffee machine. Not long after, the aroma of coffee wafted out of the kitchen. Gu Nianji enjoyed the aroma and took a sip of milk. She asked Gui Suyao, "Does Sister Gui make coffee every time?" "This is the second time." Gui Suyao was very busy in front of the counter. "Last time I came, it was Senior Brother Huang who taught me how to do it." Gu Nianji laughed. "Brother Huang knows how to make coffee like this? I remember he only liked instant coffee." Gui Suyao laughed heartily and placed 5 cups of coffee on a tray. "He made instant coffee last time, but Professor He didn't even look at it and didn't drink it." Gu Nianji pouted and silently criticized Hijichu for being pretentious. Of course she didn't dare say it out loud. She followed Gui Suyao out of the kitchen and into the living room. "Junior Sister Gui's coffee skills are superb." Senior Brother Duan kept praising her. "What a classy woman." "That's true. Women who can cook are everywhere, but women who can make good coffee are too few." Senior Brother Wei, who didn't speak much, also praised her. Gu Nianji held the milk with a slightly disgusted expression on her face. Senior Brother Huang picked up the cup of coffee disapprovingly and said with a frown, "Is this freshly ground in a coffee shop? I don't think it's any different from instant coffee. Troublesome." As he spoke, he took a sip and pursed his lips. Then he stopped talking. How could freshly ground coffee taste the same as instant coffee? No one who has drunk it would say so. Senior Marshal Brother Huang quickly finished his cup and shamelessly said to Gui Suyao, "Junior Marshal Sister Gui, help me make another cup of coffee and I'll give you 2 lists of books." Gui Suyao agreed with a smile. From the corner of her eye, she saw Hijichu take a sip of his coffee before putting it down. She couldn't tell if she was happy or disappointed. She turned to the kitchen to make more coffee. Gu Nianji sat down and propped her head on her hand as she looked at the cup of milk in front of her. "Do I have to make coffee every time from now on?" "It's not every time, right? It's only been twice." Senior Marshal Brother Huang muttered. Hijichu nodded. "Nianji has a point. We can't let little Gui make coffee every time. You guys arrange a schedule and send one person to do it each time. We don't have many meetings. If it's once a month, 4 people will be enough for 4 months." Gu Nianji pointed to herself. "What about me? Professor, he doesn't want me to make coffee? You don't drink coffee. What are you going to make?" Hijichu's expression darkened. "You're still young. Watch your seniors make coffee." It was like he was lecturing a child. Gu Nianji was speechless. Therefore, this was the disadvantage of skipping a grade. If you were much younger than others, others would not take you seriously. Even if you were smarter and more capable than them, one look at your age and you would naturally be classified as a child. Gui Suyao made another cup of coffee for Senior Marshal Brother Huang and placed it on the coffee table. Hijichu had already finished discussing their thesis ideas with Senior Marshal Brother Huang and Senior Marshal Brother Duan. "You can go now." Hijichu nodded to them. "Just send it to my email when it's done." "Okay, Professor He." The 2 stood up to leave. Senior Marshal Brother Duan walked a few steps before turning back to smile at Gu Nianji. "Little sister, I'm really not joking. Tell me the truth. Do you have a boyfriend?" "So what if I do? So what if I don't?" Gu Nianji smiled slyly. "This is the first time I've met you. It's not a good idea to talk about it." "You can't say that." Senior Marshal Brother Duan liked Gu Nianji more and more. "As long as you don't have a boyfriend, I have the right to pursue you openly, right? Whether you accept it or not is another matter. I won't force you. Alright, what's your phone number?" Gu Nianji smiled. Before she could refuse, Gui Suyao had already said, 136x times x times x. That's her phone number. She winked at Senior Marshal Brother Duan. "Senior Marshal Brother Duan, don't be like Ling Hu Chong. You're such a good little sister, don't let someone else take advantage of you." Senior Marshal Brother Duan laughed heartily. He took out his phone and dialed the number. Gu Nianji's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and showed it to Senior Marshal Brother Duan. This is your number? Yes. Senior Marshal Brother Duan was relieved. He turned to Gui Suyao. Sister Gui, my last name is Duan, not Linghu. You've seen Mr. Jin's demigods and semi-devils, right? What kind of person is Duan Jingchun? He's a true winner in life. All the famous women in demigods and semi-devils are either his women or his daughters. Senior Marshal Brother Wei almost spat out his coffee. Senior Marshal Brother Huang grabbed Senior Marshal Brother Duan. Go, don't embarrass yourself here. After the two left, Senior Marshal Brother Duan became serious. He said to Senior Marshal Brother Huang, I really want to pursue Gunyanji. What do you think? This is your first time meeting her. Did you really fall in love at first sight? Senior Marshal Brother Huang looked at him speechlessly. I never knew you were the impulsive type. No, I'm not impulsive. Gunyanji fits my requirements for a wife. Senior Marshal Brother Duan counted on his fingers. Look, she's smart. She graduated from university at 18 and started her master's degree from one of the top universities in the country. Secondly, she's beautiful. She has a slim waist and long legs. Not only is she smart and beautiful, but her parents are both dead. She doesn't have a troublesome mother-in-law to deal with. You know my family's situation. I don't need to think about benefits when I marry a wife. It was the third watch. Let me remind you about the monthly votes and recommendation votes. Moi. Chapter 376. Hey. This is getting more and more ridiculous. Brother Huang couldn't take it anymore and pointed a finger at Brother Duan. Losing parents is a lifetime of pain for others, but you've turned it into a good thing. No troublesome mothers-in-law? What are you trying to do? Are you even human? Brother Duan shrunk his neck, realizing he'd gone too far. He quickly pulled Brother Huang to bow and beg. Brother Huang, I was just saying, I didn't mean to laugh at you. I didn't treat you like an outsider, so please forgive me this time. I was just being sarcastic, I didn't mean to laugh at her. Luckily I was the only one who heard. How sad would Nianji be if she heard? Even if you really liked her, she'd never talk to you for the rest of her life if you said that. You still want to marry her? No way. Brother Huang was very close to her and couldn't bear to see people talking about her like that. Brother Duan was extremely embarrassed and smiled apologetically. Fine, I was just joking. Now that you've said that, I definitely won't go after her. He sighed. I brought this upon myself. Of all things, I had to call her little sister. This is a sign. Little sister has never belonged to me. Brother Huang didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Brother Duan's teasing. If he hadn't known Duan Chun for so many years, he would have really fallen out with him. Fine, I know you like to talk nonsense. Brother Huang patted his back. How many times have I told you you're a lawyer? How can you say things like that? Restrain yourself. Duan Chun had always admired Senior Brother Huang's character, and this time he was even more convinced by his teachings. Brother Huang, I understand, I won't do it again. He cupped his hands at Brother Huang. It was my fault today, I'll treat everyone to a meal at Jiolo Fengyue, what do you think? Brother Huang rubbed his chin and chuckled. Jiolo Fengyue? The restaurant at Sion Square, right? I heard it's the most expensive place in town? I don't know if it's the most expensive, but it's the most classy. Senior Brother Duan was thick-skinned. After a while he quickly recovered. It's best to treat Professor He and my juniors to a meal. The most stylish. Senior Brother Huang looked at him suspiciously. Is it the Jiolo Fengyue that I know of? Haha, there's only one Jiolu Fengyue in Sion Square. It must be her. When Senior Brother Duan heard the elevator, he walked in with Senior Brother Huang. He smiled and said, actually, it's just a restaurant for acting cool. Forget it. It's fine as long as the food is delicious. You're the only one with so many tricks up your sleeves. Senior Brother Huang scolded with a smile and didn't mention the matter again. Not long after Brother Huang and Brother Duan left, the door to Hijichu's suite opened again. Brother Wei and Gui Suyao also walked out. Xiao Gui, what's your mailbox? I'll send you the book list when I get back. Senior Marshal Brother Wei pressed the down button. Gui Suyao's mind was still on Hijichu. She snapped out of her daze and asked, Brother Wei, do you usually have a lot of classes with Professor He? We don't really have classes. He's the one who assigns the homework. We just finish it and hand it in. As they spoke, the elevator arrived. Brother Wei walked in first and reached out to block the elevator door. He waited for Gui Suyao to come in and said, You're new here this year. You can ask me if you have any questions. Gui Suyao was slightly disappointed, but she still replied with an oh, and asked in a roundabout way, "Did Professor He ever mention if I wanted to study at Harvard Law School? Would he agree?" "I really don't know about that. You'll have to ask Professor He yourself." Brother Wei was a little surprised. "Xiao Gui, you want to go to Harvard?" "Who wouldn't?" Gui Suyao smoothed her hair and smiled politely. "Of course. Now that I've met Professor He, why would I go to Harvard?" "Of course. Even if you go to Harvard, you'll still be Professor He's student." Brother Wei nodded. "And you'll also have to leave your hometown. It's really not worth it." Gui Suyao only smiled and didn't say anything else. The two of them sat in the elevator in silence for a while until the elevator dinged to the first floor. When they stepped out of the elevator, Gui Suyao casually asked, "Senior Wei, do you know why Professor He suddenly wants to recruit master's students? I heard in the faculty that Professor He's mentored PhD students were invited over and over again by the university, and that he would only be mentoring 5 PhD students. In the end, he only recruited 3 PhD students. I only transferred this year, and Gun Yinji can be considered the first student Professor He personally recruited. Whether it was Brother Huang, Brother Duan, or Brother Wei, all of them actually had mentors before. They were only transferred to Hijichu after Hijichu agreed to teach at B University's Faculty of Law. Of course, it wasn't easy to transfer. They had to go through a difficult selection test before the 3 were finally selected." Brother Wei shook his head. "I'm not sure about that. But," he glanced at Gui Suyao, "you didn't take the test and directly transferred from another professor to Professor He. You're quite capable." Gui Suyao had no intention of hiding it from Brother Wei. She said honestly, "My relatives helped me. My uncle's family knows a lot of people and is well connected. Professor He is doing my uncle a favor." "Your uncle?" Brother Wei looked at her in surprise. "That's not bad. To be able to find someone to have a direct relationship with Professor He, this person must have a lot of power." Gui Suyao smiled. "My uncle's surname is Do." "Do?" Brother Wei frowned and thought for a while. The first person he thought of was Prime Minister Do. But if Gui Suyao's uncle was Prime Minister Do, then he really wasn't an ordinary person. Did she have to be an insignificant university counselor? "It's not the Do I think it is it?" Brother Wei asked tentatively. "Then I must have been blind." "Brother Wei, you're exaggerating. My uncle was originally an ordinary person. He only became the Prime Minister because he was good at his studies." Gui Suyao said casually, "We didn't have much contact after he became the Prime Minister, but I asked him for help for the first time in order to become Professor He's student. That's why I never told anyone." "It really is Prime Minister Do?" Brother Wei gasped. "Little Gui, it's rare for you to be so approachable." "You flatter me, Brother Wei." Gui Suyao couldn't help turning around to look at the 28th floor as she spoke. That was Hijichu's room. The lights were still on. The furnishings were simple and understated, but Gui Suyao was a knowledgeable person. She knew that the simpler the furniture, the more expensive it was. Professor He's wealth was indeed extraordinary. Meanwhile, in Hijichu's room, Gun Yinji had already stood up. She shouldered her backpack and was about to leave. Hijichu waved at her. "Yinji, sit for a while and tell me about your plans." "My plans?" Gun Yinji frowned. "I told Professor He before. But Professor He didn't want to talk about it, so I didn't." Hijichu propped his head on his hand and leaned against the sofa. He wasn't looking at Gun Yinji but somewhere else. After a while, Hijichu finally said, "Is it about you wanting to graduate early?" "Yeah." Gun Yinji nodded. "I really wanted to know about it, but Professor He didn't want to talk about it, so I didn't ask." "It's not that I don't want to talk about it." Hijichu looked at her. "Sit down and talk." Gun Yinji saw Hijichu's tone soften. She finally sat down and said very sincerely, "Professor He, I'm really thinking about it. If there's even the slightest possibility, can you tell me?" Hijichu looked at her steadily. His gaze was calm, and his shimmering almond-shaped eyes were even more charming under the light. However, his expression was extremely cold. "Can you tell me why you want to graduate early?" Hijichu finally asked. He hadn't stopped thinking about it ever since he heard Gun Yinji mention it on the phone. Gun Yinji was shocked by the question. Why else? As long as I can graduate early, of course I want to. But you're only 18. Even if you study for 3 years, you'll only be 21 when you graduate. What exactly do you want to do with it? Hijichu looked her up and down. He looked away and walked to the kitchen. Gun Yinji stood up as well. "Professor He? I'll go make coffee." Hijichu didn't turn around. Gun Yinji thought about it and followed him in. She kept trying to persuade him. "Professor He, I really want to graduate early." Please do me a favor and tell me what I should do so that I can graduate early. Hijichu took the coffee beans and poured them into the coffee machine to grind. He asked her, "Okay, tell me why you want to graduate early. Don't tell me everyone wants it. I don't want to know what other people think. I only want to know what you think." Gunyenji wrung her hands in front of her. She was a bit embarrassed for a while. She whispered, "I want to graduate early and work." Hijichu had never expected that answer. His hands were almost trembling. It took him a lot of effort to calm down. Then he opened the coffee machine program and began to make coffee. Both hands on the counter, Hijichu didn't turn around. He asked dryly, "You really want to work? That's easy. You can work at my office while you're still in school. I won't pay you any less than anyone else." "Thank you, Professor He." Gunyenji's heart relaxed. She smiled. "But working as a student is different from working formally. I want to work formally full-time as soon as possible." Hijichu's thin lips pursed. He turned to glance at her. His shimmering, sultry eyes sparkled. He smiled slightly. "Then why do you want to work early?" Gunyenji didn't expect Hijichu to be so sharp. His questions went straight to the depths of her heart. She had never mentioned these thoughts to Huo Xiaoheng. "Because I want to make money early." Gunyenji answered honestly. "You want to make money?" Hijichu's expression immediately darkened. "All you think about is money. Are you short on money?" "Yes," Gunyenji whispered. "I don't have parents or family, so I have to rely on myself. I don't want to rely on others for the rest of my life." So that was it. Hijichu's heart tightened. He used all his strength to control himself. He slowly turned around and looked at her silently. He sighed deeply. "What about your parents and family?" This was the first 3,000-word update. Today I'll continue counting the monthly and recommendation votes of the marriage proposal fans. The second update was around 2:00 p.m. It was the second update for the Heavens Beggar, who was promoted to the leader of the alliance. 7:00 p.m. of the third update. P.S. Thank you to Huaishuan, my relative, for tipping the Heshibi yesterday. Mwah. Oh, __. Oh. Chapter 377. My parents and family? Gunyenji shook her head helplessly and smiled wryly. "Didn't you see my information? I'm an orphan whose parents passed away." "Your parents are really gone?" Hijichu took a step forward to get closer to Gunyenji. "Then where are your parents buried? Have you paid your respects to them?" Gunyenji looked at Hijichu in shock, and the resistance she had against him disappeared. Other than Huo Xiaoheng, Hijichu was the first person to care about her parents' real situation. He even mentioned paying his respects to her parents. This was a form of respect. As a child, it was difficult for her to resent him for having such a respectful attitude towards her parents. Gunyenji looked at Hijichu and thought about lying or remaining silent for a long time. In the end, she shook her head and said honestly, "No, I don't know where my parents are buried." "Didn't your parents pass away? How can you not know where they are buried?" Hijichu's voice was close to a sneer, but Gunyenji was no longer disgusted. She thought about it silently for a while and said with difficulty, "Actually, I'm just guessing that they're probably gone." "Why do you say probably?" "Because I don't remember the past." Gunyenji gripped the straps of her backpack tightly, feeling very uneasy. "I don't know if my parents are gone or if they're still alive somewhere. But if they're still alive, why didn't they come looking for me?" Her expression was somewhat stubborn as she finally said the words she had hidden in her heart for a long time. Deep in her heart, she still believed that her parents were no longer around. Even with Huo Xiaoheng's ability and power, he still couldn't find any trace of her parents after searching for 6 years. Even if her parents wanted to abandon her, it was impossible for them to hide so well under Huo Xiaoheng's search. Therefore, Gunyenji truly believed that they were probably no longer in this world. Sometimes she couldn't figure out which had hurt her the most. Was it that her parents were gone? Or were they still alive, but they were unwilling to find her or even acknowledge her? However, Huo Xiaoheng had always believed that her parents were still alive and had been working hard to find them. He had never given up. "You really don't remember the past?" Hijichu took another step forward, his voice trembling uncontrollably. "Then how old do you remember what happened?" Gunyenji raised her hand to rub her temples and murmured, "I was 12. I really don't remember anything before I was 12. "What about after 12? Hijichu was already standing in front of her and looking down at her. Gunyenji's hair was thick and dark. She thought it was troublesome, so she often tied her hair into a ponytail when she went out. Hijichu almost reached out to touch her ponytail, but he retracted his hand halfway and said as calmly as he could, "Then why don't you remember anything before you were 12? A person's memory cells should be fully developed after the age of 6 and can store long-term memories. Why can't you remember anything before the age of 12? Well?" Gu Nianji hesitated. "Professor He, can you promise me that you won't tell anyone?" Hijichu's bleak heart was warmed by these words. He replied gently, "I won't tell anyone. As long as you tell me, I won't share it with anyone." Gu Nianji laughed self-deprecatingly. "Thank you, Professor He. Actually, my file has already been circulated among the faculty and students, so the death of my parents isn't really a secret. I thought Professor He had also read my file and wouldn't have these problems." "What file?" Hijichu was slightly taken aback. "Was it the form you filled out when you applied for graduate school?" "No." Gu Nianji remembered that Hijichu was from the United States, so he probably didn't know about the Wuxia Empire student file. She patiently explained it to him. Hijichu understood and frowned. "That's a private matter. Can anyone see it?" "Of course not. But forget it, it's not a big deal. My file doesn't have anything to hide, so it's fine if he saw it." Gu Nianji didn't want to talk about it anymore. He had already seen it anyway, so there was no point in getting angry. Could she fire the teacher who was in charge of the file? Or could she sentence the teacher who spread the file? Gu Nianji knew that she had no choice but to swallow the loss. This was completely different from Miao Yunxiao's incident. Hijichu saw that Gu Nianji didn't want to pursue the matter, so he didn't say anything more. He continued to ask Gu Nianji about her memory loss. Gu Nianji was playing right into his trap. She quickly changed the topic and continued. "It's like this. I was in a serious car accident when I was 12 years old. I was later rescued, but when I woke up, I didn't remember anything. I don't remember anything at all." Hijichu looked at her deeply. He tried his best to control his expression and didn't change. He asked again, "You don't remember anything? What kind of car accident could cause you to lose 6 years of memory?" "It was a very big car accident." Gu Nianji even used her hands to illustrate it. Even the nervous Hijichu was amused by her. "How can a car accident be compared like that?" "That's right." Gu Nianji also relaxed. "There was a huge explosion at the time. I still remember the flames that blotted out the sky. Sometimes I still dream about it at night and wake up in shock. I find myself in bed and not in the car. I feel especially blessed." Hijichu's eyes revealed an indescribable pity and love, but he didn't show it. Instead, he folded his hands behind his back and took a step back to a distance that Gu Nianji felt was safe. The safe distance between people was 1-2 meters. If a stranger came within 1-2 meters of you, it would make you feel insecure. Hijichu and Gu Nianji weren't strangers, but because they had argued before, Gu Nianji was very guarded against him. Therefore, Hijichu could only put himself in the category of strangers. He looked at Gu Nianji silently. He didn't know how they could go back to the way they used to be. Perhaps they couldn't go back to the way they used to be because she had already grown up. Gu Nianji was an adult and beautiful young girl. She was no longer the little girl who followed him around every day. "Then have you ever thought about seeing a psychiatrist to regain your past memories?" Although they couldn't go back, Hijichu still didn't want to give up. He was a part of her past life. He didn't want her to completely forget about him. Gu Nianji spread her hands and smiled mischievously. "I've seen it many times. I started seeing a psychiatrist after I woke up from the car accident. After 2 or 3 years, the psychiatrist didn't want to see me anymore." Hijichu also smiled. "Which psychiatrist did you see? Could it be that his medical skills are too bad? I know a very famous psychiatrist in the United States. If there's a chance, I'll invite him here and have a chat with you. Would you be willing?" Gu Nianji remembered Qinlai's face and couldn't help laughing. "I'm fine with it, but I don't think it'll work." "Why do you say that?" "Because I've already seen the best psychiatrist." Gu Nianji also took a step back. "Okay, Professor He. If there's nothing else, I'll be going now. You don't want to talk about early graduation anymore?" Hijichu raised a brow. "My coffee was just made." Gu Nianji hesitated for a moment. At that moment her phone rang. It was Hua Xiaoheng's ringtone. Gu Nianji quickly took out her phone and was about to answer it when she looked at Hijichu hesitantly. Hijichu turned around unhappily to pour coffee from the coffee machine. "My rule for meetings is to set everyone's phones to vibrate." Gu Nianji secretly stuck out her tongue. She gripped her phone and said to Hijichu, "Professor He, it's getting late. I'll be going now. I won't disturb your rest. As for early graduation, we can talk about it later. After all, there's plenty of time." Hijichu was very pleased to hear this. He grunted, and when he turned around, he realized that Gunyenji had already slipped away. Ran like a rabbit. Hijichu curled the corners of his lips. He brought his coffee out of the kitchen and stood on the windowsill to look down. A few minutes later, Gunyenji came out of the building. She was holding her phone and talking to someone. He couldn't see her expression from upstairs, but he could tell that she was very focused on talking on the phone. There were a few times when she almost bumped into someone. There was no need to ask. It had to be that person. Hijichu didn't want to look anymore. He turned away from the windowsill and returned to his room. Gunyenji came out of the elevator and jogged to talk to Huo Xiaoheng. Huo Xiaoheng knew that Gunyenji had a class meeting that night, so he waited more than 2 hours before calling her. He didn't expect her to not pick up immediately. This had never happened before. He waited for a while before the call connected. Gunyenji's sweet voice came through the earpiece. Huo Xiao. Yes, what are you doing? You haven't picked up in so long. I'm sorry, Huo Xiao. I was in a meeting with Professor He just now. I couldn't pick up. With Hijichu? Huo Xiaoheng pursed his lips. A dart flew out of his hand and embedded itself in the center of the dartboard on the wall. It was the second night watch. It was the second extra night watch for the leader of the beggars in heaven. He wanted to remind them about their monthly votes and recommendation votes. It was 7 o'clock in the evening. Moi. Chapter 378. Yeah, I told you it was Professor He. Gunyenji laughed. Her footsteps were practically skipping as she walked along the campus road. It was almost 9:30 and there weren't many people on the road. It was everyone's first day of school, so there weren't any classes yet. The weather was cold, so almost no one came out of their dorms. Gunyenji walked quickly on her own. As she spoke to Huo Xiaoheng on the phone, she said, I didn't have a class meeting with my classmates. I had a meeting with Professor He's students. You had a meeting with Hijichu's doctoral students? Huo Xiaoheng threw another dart out. This dart stuck in almost the same spot as the previous one, making the center of the dartboard bigger. Yeah, I'm Professor He's only master's student. Gunyenji explained to him, even my classes, grants and internships are handled by him. The faculty only keeps my student status and records. Professor He is the one who makes all my transcripts. Huo Xiaoheng didn't say anything else. He just listened to Gunyenji. She talked like this all the way back to her dorm. Huo Xiao, I have to hang up. I'm about to enter the elevator. The signal is bad inside. Okay, that's it for today. Huo Xiaoheng only wanted to make sure Gunyenji had returned to her dorm. He didn't have much desire to chat. Go back and rest. Classes start tomorrow. Are you ready? Gunyenji still hadn't looked at her schedule, but she said to Huo Xiaoheng, it's about time. I'll go back and look at the schedule. Okay, good night. Huo Xiaoheng said good night to her and hung up. Gunyenji looked at her phone speechlessly. Once again Huo Xiaoheng hung up before she did. Huo Xiaoheng didn't go home when he called Gunyenji. Instead he stayed in his office. Zhao Liangzi was running the program he wrote day and night to gradually narrow down the scope of inspection. He didn't sleep or rest for several days and finally couldn't take it anymore. He covered himself with a blanket and fell asleep on the large sofa in the corner. Huo Xiaoheng helped him look at the computer program. No one knew that Huo Xiaoheng was also a computer expert. He had convinced Zhao Liangzi to work for the Special Operations Forces back then, which was enough to show that Huo Xiaoheng had something that convinced him. He wasn't someone who didn't know anything about computers. He sat at the computer desk and stared at the results on the screen, as well as the big red crosses next to them. He was lost in thought. After a while, the office door was pushed open, and Bai Yueran walked in. Huo Xiao, are you really still here? She looked at Huo Xiaoheng in surprise and then smiled. You're probably the only general who has been promoted to this rank and still works overtime to get paid. Huo Xiaoheng silently clicked the mouse, and the program that had just been running on the computer was immediately hidden with one click. Yin Shixiang stood up from behind his desk and said to Bai Yueran, Director Bai, what brings you here today? As he spoke, he walked out. What would you like to drink, Director Bai? Coffee or tea? Bai Yueran waved her hand and smiled. I have a few things to say to Huo Xiao. I'll be leaving once I'm done. I'm not working overtime. Yin Shixiang clicked his tongue and shook his head. What happened to sharing fortune and misfortune? Director Bai isn't a good friend at all. You're joking. Bai Yueran laughed and walked over to Huo Xiaoheng's computer desk to take a look. This is little Zay's desk? Where is he? Huo Xiaoheng spun around on his computer chair and turned to look at the sofa in the corner. He's sleeping over there. It's been a few nights and he can't take it anymore. It's not good for you guys to work overtime every day. You're practically eating and living in the office. You guys don't have families now and no one will say anything even if you work overtime every day. But when you get married you'll know what it means to have no choice. Bai Yueran smiled as she sat down on the stool in front of the desk. Hua Xiaoheng clasped his hands together in front of him and leaned back on the computer chair. Director Bai, is there something you need? Yes, there are two things. Bai Yueran placed a document on the desk in front of Hua Xiaoheng. The first thing is that Zhang Feng filed an appeal in prison. I've compiled a document to send to the military court. Take a look and see if it's there. Hua Xiaoheng stared fixedly at her and grunted non-committally. The second thing is the issue of the Institute of High-Energy Physics restarting the experiment. Bai Yueran took out a report. This time, all these departments have requested to participate. What do you think we should do? No. Hua Xiaoheng immediately rejected Bai Yueran's second request. The experiment at the Institute of High-Energy Physics is strictly confidential. No more people can participate. We can't satisfy these departments' requests. Hua Xiao, in politics they won't back down just because we can't satisfy their requests. Bai Yueran sighed. Our country is a society that values relationships. You can't be so heartless. Hua Xiaoheng walked out from behind the desk and rubbed his forehead. Let me think about it. He picked up the darts and threw them again. Bai Yueran sat for a while and saw Zhao Liangzi sleeping soundly on the sofa in the corner, but the military blanket on him had fallen off. She quickly walked over and picked it up from the ground to cover him gently. Zhao Liangzi was still groggy from sleep and opened his eyes to see Bai Yueran's beautiful face. He was instantly wide awake. Director. Why are you here? He struggled to sit up. His head was a little dizzy. Bai Yueran comforted him. Sleep a little longer. I'll leave after talking to Hua Xiao. Oh. Zhao Liangzi's voice carried a subtle hint of disappointment. He lifted the blanket. I should get up too. I slept all night. It's only been 2 hours. What do you mean by all night? Yin Shixiang gave Zhao Liangzi a look. Go back and sleep tonight. Hua Xiao and I will stay here and watch. Zhao Liangzi picked up his jacket from the other side of the sofa and put it on. He looked at Bai Yueran inquiringly. Bai Yueran thought about it and said, then let's go together. Okay. Zhao Liangzi's heart suddenly relaxed. He put on his jacket again before leaving the office with Bai Yueran. The night sky outside was beautiful. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The two chatted as they walked. Zhao Liangzi asked tentatively, it's Valentine's Day in a few days. How does Director Bai plan to celebrate it? Bai Yueran laughed. I don't have a lover. Why would I celebrate Valentine's Day? No way? Director Bai doesn't have a boyfriend? Zhao Liangzi couldn't hide the excitement in his voice. That's hard to believe. It's the truth. Actually, other people don't like me. Bai Yueran said seriously, but her eyes darted around mischievously. Zhao Liangzi's heart was thumping wildly, but he remained calm on the outside. He smiled and said, Director Bai is too humble. Being overly humble is equivalent to being arrogant. Director Bai's standards must be too high, and you don't like those ordinary people? Little Zay, you're so funny. I really don't have high standards. Actually, I'm too busy. I had a boyfriend before, but I only saw him a few times a year. Eventually, he couldn't take it anymore and broke up. Bai Yueran sighed. I don't care anymore. Zhao Liangzi glanced at her. Director Bai is such a good person. I'm sure you'll find a good partner. Thank you for your kind words. Bai Yueran nodded with a smile. I have to go back. Good night. Zhao Liangzi watched her disappear into the distance. He planned to try asking Bai Yueran out for dinner on Valentine's Day. After a few days, Zhao Liangzi's program was almost finished. He had narrowed down the targets from a few hundred to a few dozen and could officially report it to the Supreme Military Council. Hua Xiaoheng immediately brought the list to the Supreme Military Council and requested authorization from them and the Senate to allow the Special Operations Forces to operate within the country. General Ji looked at the list and smiled with satisfaction. Xiaoheng, you really didn't disappoint me. It's been 6 years and this matter can finally be resolved. We never gave up. Hua Xiaoheng also breathed a sigh of relief. This matter had come to an end. All that was left was to wait for authorization to bring these people to the imperial capital. He was about to ask for a vacation when he heard General Ji say, "Oh right, the girl from the Su family happened to be at my house for dinner today and bumped into you. After dinner you can take her home." It was the third watch. Let me remind you about your monthly votes and recommendation votes. Mwah. Oh, and if. Oh. Chapter 379. You have a guest? Hua Xiaoheng stood up calmly. Then I'd better go back. Go back for what? General Ji didn't allow him to refuse. Since you're here, let's have a meal together. Since when have you not eaten at my house? Hua Xiaoheng smiled and bent down to pick up his briefcase from the sofa. You didn't have any guests in the past, so I didn't mind getting a free meal. Now that you have a guest, it doesn't seem right for me to get a free meal. What's wrong with that? She's not really a guest. You met her last time. General Ji glared at him. Deputy Chief of Staff Su's daughter, Su Piaohong. You don't remember her? Hua Xiaoheng pretended to be deep in thought and shook his head. I really don't remember. Have I seen her before? Don't play dumb. General Ji was slightly disappointed to see Hua Xiaoheng like this. You were forced to stop your car by her not long ago. You really don't remember? Oh, so it's that intern who doesn't know much about traffic rules. Hua Xiaoheng clenched his fist and coughed. I remember her, but I don't remember her name. General Ji said angrily, how could you forget her name? Is she that inconspicuous? Why should I remember her name? Hua Xiaoheng said calmly. I have 100 things to do every day. I can't afford to be distracted. General Ji, why don't you tell me what this officer Su did to deserve me remembering her name? General Ji looked at Hua Xiaoheng with his mouth agape. He didn't know what to say. He could only mutter to himself as he walked to the dining room. It's just remembering a name. Did she really have to do something earth-shattering? Hua Xiaoheng calmly walked behind General Ji and followed him into the Ji residence's dining room. Actually, General Ji had asked him to stay even if there was no reason. Hua Xiaoheng wasn't an inflexible person. He just had to show his attitude. General Ji understood that. When they entered the dining room, Su Piaohong was already at the dining table with General Ji's wife. Xiaoheng, you're here. Come and sit. General Ji's wife greeted Hua Xiaoheng warmly and invited him to sit next to Su Piaohong. Su Piaohong was a little uneasy, but she still said graciously, Hello, Major General Hua. I didn't expect to see you again. We're all acquaintances. Why are you being so polite? General Ji chuckled as he sat down next to his wife. Piaohong, it's getting late. Let Hua Xiao send you back after dinner. Su Piaohong blushed immediately. She sneaked a peek at Hua Xiaoheng and happened to see his breathtakingly handsome profile. Under the light, the corners of his lips curled up, and his expression was so calm that it made people's hair stand on end. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Su Piaohong sneaking glances at him. He glanced over and nodded politely. Miss Su, did you drive here? Su Piaohong was captivated by his beauty and nodded blankly. Yes, I drove here. General Ji wanted to cover his face. This last was too honest. Hua Xiaoheng had tricked her into coming out. As expected, Hua Xiaoheng smiled and said, Since Miss Su drove here, I'll have the orderlies follow your car and send you back. Only then did Su Piaohong realize what she had said. She was filled with regret. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have said she drove here. She could have left her car with General Ji and asked her father to find someone to drive it back tomorrow. General Ji had no choice but to find an excuse for himself. He smiled. So Piaohong drove here? Forget it then. Xiaoheng doesn't need to send you back. I thought you came in your father's car. My father's car is a military car. My mother and I never take my father's official car. Su Piaohong said politely to show that she wouldn't take advantage of the military. Ah, how rare. General Ji laughed heartily and put some food in Su Piaohong's bowl. Deputy Chief of Staff Su, with a family like this, should be a role model for the military. Hua Xiaoheng smiled and nodded as if in agreement. However, he didn't say anything and picked up his bowl to eat. Su Piaohong carefully observed Hua Xiaoheng's behavior. She saw that he ate very properly and slowly. His manners were impeccable. Her father always made loud noises when eating at home. He even told her that all the people in the military were like that. That's what a man should be like. But Hua Xiaoheng was different from the soldiers on her father's side. So it wasn't just eating rough that people could be called men. Su Piaohong couldn't help but ladle a bowl of soup for Hua Xiaoheng. She placed it on his right hand and smiled. Major General Hua, this is Cotinopsis and wolfberry lamb soup. It's very nourishing. My mother said that we should have nourishment in the winter. Hua Xiaoheng paused. Seeing that General Ji and his wife were smiling at him, he couldn't refuse and could only take it. Thank you, Miss Su. The soup was very small, so Hua Xiaoheng didn't mind. He finished it in 2 gulps and put it aside. He didn't expect Su Piaohong to see him finish it so quickly. She thought that he liked it and quickly filled another bowl for him. Hua Xiaoheng quickly said, "You're welcome, Miss Su. I've had enough. This is the last bowl. Major General Hua, please eat." Su Piaohong pushed the soup to Hua Xiaoheng. "General Ji's house has good things. I even said that I wanted to learn cooking from Mrs. Ji. Major General Hua, what do you like to eat?" Hua Xiaoheng replied calmly, "I like to eat everything." Saying that he liked to eat everything was equivalent to saying that he wouldn't tell her what he liked to eat. Su Piaohong choked and understood what Hua Xiaoheng was implying. She didn't ask further. However, she couldn't taste the food. She picked up her chopsticks and took a few bites. Seeing that Hua Xiaoheng had finished his meal and was drinking tea, she stopped eating. Hua Xiaoheng blew on the cigarette and asked her calmly, "Miss Su, you're not eating anymore?" "No, I'm full." Su Piaohong patted herself exaggeratedly. "Auntie's food is really delicious." Hua Xiaoheng looked at the remaining food in Su Piaohong's bowl and smiled. He didn't say anything else. He finished his tea and got up to leave. General Ji couldn't urge him to send Su Piaohong off anymore. He could only give her a look. Su Piaohong mustered her courage and chased after him. "Major General Hua, are you going to the parking lot?" Hua Xiaoheng shook his head. "My car is at the entrance." "Oh." Su Piaohong was a little disappointed. "My car is in the parking lot. This is the residence of the members of the Supreme Military Council. It's very safe," Hua Xiaoheng said politely. "But if Miss Su still doesn't dare to go, I can get my orderly to take you there." No need. I didn't mean it that way. I know it's very safe here." Su Piaohong quickly waved her hand. "Then Major General Hua, you can go first. I just remembered that I left my things at General Ji's house." "All right, I'll go first." Hua Xiaoheng nodded at her and got into his car. Fan Jian started the car in the driver's seat and quickly drove out of the residential area of the Supreme Military Council. Hua Xiaoheng sat in the car and rubbed his forehead. He closed his eyes to rest. After a while he felt a little hot. He wasn't sure if it was because he drank too much mutton soup. Looking up at the road outside, he seemed to be passing by the entrance of B University. He said to Fan Jian, "Drive to B University. I'll go see Nianji." This was the first watch. A reminder for the monthly votes and recommendation votes. The second watch was around 2 in the afternoon. There was no third watch today. Wax. Chapter 380. Fan Jian looked at the car's onboard pathfinding system and found the nearest road to take. He drove quickly and steadily and arrived at the south gate of B University in no time. After showing his pass, Hua Xiaoheng's car drove directly into the campus. It was already dark, but there were more people on campus. After entering the campus, they slowed down and drove towards Gu Nianji's graduate student dormitory. Hua Xiaoheng called Gu Nianji in the car. Gu Nianji had just returned from studying at the library and was about to shower and put on a face mask. When she heard Hua Xiaoheng's personal ringtone, she was instantly excited. "Hua Xiao." She swiped open the phone and asked in surprise, "Why are you calling me so late at night?" Hua Xiaoheng sat in the car and looked out the window. "I'm already on campus. I'll be at your dormitory soon." "Really?" Gu Nianji was ecstatic. "I'll be right down. Or do you want to come up?" Hua Xiaoheng propped his head on his hand and said calmly, "I'll park the car downstairs. You can come down." It was already past 9 p.m., so it wasn't convenient for Hua Xiaoheng to go to the female dormitory so late at night. Gu Nianji was also worried about this problem, so she immediately said, "Okay, I'll be right down." She looked in the mirror and saw that she had just washed her face. Thankfully, she hadn't put on a face mask and was still wearing a simple cashmere cardigan with a knee-length skirt. Because she was going out, she changed into her knee-high boots and put on a navy blue military-style double-breasted wool coat. She put her phone and keys in the coat pocket before opening the door and running out. Ma Chichi had just come in and saw Gu Nianji running out from the living room. She called out to her, "It's so late, where are you going?" "I'm going out to buy something." Gu Nianji didn't even look back as she opened the door and headed towards the elevator. As soon as Ma Chichi heard that she wanted to buy something, she quickly said, "Help me buy some supper. It'd be best if it's the pancakes from the little store around the corner from campus. Remember to add 2 eggs too." "Got it." Gu Nianji turned around and waved. She smiled. "You only know how to eat. Be careful you don't gain 1.5 kilos overnight. You're the one who gained 1.5 kilos. Ma Chichi stood at the dormitory door angrily with her arms akimbo. "You can't be envious." Gu Nianji snickered and walked into the elevator. She made a face at Ma Chichi, who was glaring at her, and pressed the down button. The elevator door slowly closed. Her heart had already flown downstairs. Hua Xiaoheng's car was parked in the shadows at the corner of Gun Yanji's dorm. Fan Jian turned around and smiled at Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiao, I'm going down for a smoke. Hua Xiaoheng glanced at him. Go. He looked down at the tablet he was using to record, but he couldn't concentrate. With nowhere to vent the heat in his heart, he rolled down the window and let the cold air in. Only then did he feel more comfortable. Gun Yanji went downstairs and looked around. She didn't see a car, but she did see Fan Jian smoking under a big tree in front of the building. She walked over with a smile and patted Fan Jian's shoulder. Brother Fan, where's Hua Xiao? Fan Jian turned around and saw her. He pointed to the shadow on the other side of the building. Over there. Thank you, Brother Fan. Gun Yanji followed the direction Fan Jian had pointed and found Hua Xiaoheng's car. It was hidden in the shadows like a beast, full of predation. Gun Yanji was even more excited. She quickly ran over. The night wind was cold, but her cheeks were flushed. Her heart was warm because Hua Xiao had come to see her. He'd taken the initiative to see her. Only she knew how difficult it was for Hua Xiaoheng to get to this step. Hua Xiaoheng sat in the car and saw a young girl wearing a double-breasted military-style coat run over from a brightly lit area. Her long ponytail fluttered behind her head. Her tall figure was complemented by the double-breasted military-style coat, making her look valiant and valiant. It was a stark contrast between softness and toughness. He looked at her in a daze. His eyes were deep and calm as he hid in the darkness of the car. He didn't move. He was like a cheetah in the dark, waiting for his prey to come to him. Gun Yanji came to the car and called out into the darkness, Hua Xiao. The car was too quiet. It didn't seem like anyone was inside. She wondered if Hua Xiaoheng had gotten out to smoke like Fan Jian. Just as she was debating whether to open the door, it opened from the inside. Hua Xiaoheng reached out to her and said in a low voice, Come in. Gun Yanji was overjoyed. She placed her hand in Hua Xiaoheng's palm and was pulled into the car by him. The door closed with a click. Hua Xiaoheng used one hand to pull her into his embrace. He supported the back of her head with one hand and wrapped the other around the back of her waist. He held her tightly in his arms and lowered his head to kiss her. He sucked on her slightly cold lips with shocking strength. Gun Yanji really liked the way he was hugging her. Although Hua Xiaoheng was very strong and she was almost suffocating from being hugged so tightly, she enjoyed it. It made her feel very safe. Her love for Hua Xiaoheng started from a sense of security. His lips were very hot. His embrace was also very warm. Gun Yanji didn't even notice when his hand slipped under her coat. It was too warm. He held her tightly. Although it hurt, she didn't make a sound. She could feel Hua Xiaoheng's excitement. She was happy but also a little scared. Hua Xiaoheng's stormy kisses finally eased the heat in his chest. He stuck the tip of his tongue deep inside Gun Yanji's lips to find the miracle cure. Gun Yanji's giggling reverberated between his lips and teeth, causing ripples in his heart. What are you laughing at? Hua Xiaoheng nuzzled her face and gradually calmed down. Gun Yanji sat in Hua Xiaoheng's embrace. She reached out and hugged his neck. She leaned her head on his shoulder and smiled. What's wrong with you today? Nothing. Hua Xiaoheng looked down at her. Are you busy with your homework? My homework has never been a problem. Gun Yanji's hand moved from Hua Xiaoheng's neck to his collar. She caressed and played with the buckle at the base of his neck. You haven't called me in the past few days. I was still thinking about what to do over the weekend. This weekend was Gun Yanji's first weekend back at school. There was nothing to do at school. Gun Yanji was worried about where to stay. Hua Xiaoheng hadn't called. She didn't know if she should go to Hua Xiaoheng's official residence or the apartment he said he would prepare for her. Where do you want to go? Hua Xiaoheng held her hand to stop her from touching it. Do you want to go back to the base with me or to the apartment? If I go to the apartment, will you go? This was the question Gun Yanji was most concerned about. Hua Xiaoheng thought about it. You go back to the base this weekend. There are still some places in the apartment that haven't been completely renovated. It's best to wait a few more days. Gun Yanji nodded. Okay. I'll go back to the base tomorrow. I'll have Big Xiong pick you up. Hua Xiaoheng kissed her cheek again. Okay, you can go back now. You're leaving already? Gun Yanji was reluctant to leave. She complained, I'm only staying for a while. Hua Xiaoheng could only kiss her again before letting her go. Gun Yanji got out of the car and adjusted her coat that Hua Xiaoheng had opened. She waved at him and ran back to the dorm. Brother Fan, you can go back now. Gun Yanji made a face at him and walked back into the dorm. Miao Yunxiao quickly walked up from behind her and gave her a condescending smile as she passed her. She walked into the elevator and closed the door before Gunyenji could come in. Gunyenji watched speechlessly as the elevator door closed in front of her and the flash of disdain on Miao Yunxiao's face. How childish. Gunyenji muttered and was about to look for another elevator when she suddenly remembered that she wanted to buy pancakes for Ma Chichi. She turned around and rushed out of the dorm building to buy pancakes from the snack shop around the corner. Little sister? You also eat pancakes? Senior brother Duan walked out of the shop with 2 pancakes in his hands and looked at her with a smile. Gunyenji quickly greeted him. Hi brother Duan. You're here to buy pancakes too? Yeah, I'm buying them for brother Huang. I lost a bet with him, ha. Brother Duan laughed heartily. Gunyenji's pretty face almost glowed in the soft light. He was dazzled and couldn't help asking, Nyenji, next weekend happens to be Valentine's Day. Do you have any plans? It was the second watch. A reminder for my friends' monthly votes and recommendation votes. There was no third watch today. Moi. Chapter 381. From little sister to Nyenji in the blink of an eye, her tone changed so quickly. Gunyenji smiled and felt that brother Duan's question was inappropriate. How could she tell someone she didn't know about Valentine's Day? Valentine's Day? I never thought about it. Gunyenji tilted her head with a smile and glanced inside the store. She immediately said, Oh, there are so many people. I have to go buy pancakes. Talk to you later, brother Duan. Duan Chun watched as Gunyenji ran past him like a gust of wind and entered the store. There were indeed many people inside, so he couldn't drag her back to ask about Valentine's Day plans. He could only sigh and shake his head. He muttered, Little sister really isn't eldest brothers or second brothers. He regretfully returned to the dormitory. Gunyenji arrived at the pancake store and waited in line for a while before it was her turn. She smiled at the owner. I want 2 pancakes with 2 eggs each. Also, the crispy pancakes need spicy sauce. The owner skillfully made the pancakes and handed them to her in 2 small paper boxes. He chuckled. Sheng Hui, 16 yuan. Gunyenji took out the money for him and placed the 2 small paper boxes in a small bag to take away. As soon as she returned to the dormitory, Ma Chichi smelled food and ran out of her room. She said to Gunyenji standing in the living room, You're finally back. What took you so long? I almost fainted from hunger. Gunyenji handed the small bag to her and smiled as she patted her head. Eat. There were so many people. I was worried you'd be hungry, so I bought 2. That's great. I'm still regretting that I didn't tell you enough. How can one be enough? Of course I want to. Ma Chichi took out 2 paper boxes from the small bag and sniffed deeply. It smells so good. Putting down the paper boxes, Ma Chichi went to her room to get money and handed it to Gunyenji. Thank you for your help. Gunyenji quickly declined. It's okay. It's just 2 pancakes. Why bother? Ma Chichi stubbornly refused. If you don't take the money, then I won't eat it. I'll give it back to you. Gunyenji looked at her in shock. Chichi, what's wrong? Isn't it just 2 pancakes? Why are you so angry with me? Nyenji, I know 2 pancakes aren't worth much, but I was the one who asked you to bring them. That's a different matter. Of course I have to pay. Ma Chichi shoved the money into Gunyenji's hand. I can't let you run errands and pay for it at the same time, right? Do I have to take advantage of such a small matter? Gunyenji didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she took the money. I know. Isn't it just 2 pancakes? Look at how far you've gone. I don't want to go that far. Ma Chichi smiled and took a bite of her pancake. She mumbled, It's just like borrowing money. If you pay back what you borrow, it won't be hard to borrow again, right? Yes. You're the one with the most principles. Gunyenji smiled as she pinched Ma Chichi's perky little nose. She turned to walk to her room as she said, I'm so tired today. I haven't even showered yet. Ma Chichi sat at the dining table in the living room and put the rest of the pancake on a small plate. She made herself a cup of soy milk and ate it slowly. She glanced at Gunyenji's room and suddenly remembered that Gunyenji said she was going out to buy something. However, she had been out for so long and had only brought back 2 pancakes. She hadn't bought anything else. This little girl? She's still sneaking around and hiding things from me? Ma Chichi's eyes darted around as she thought of some possible reasons. Of course, the most likely reason was that Gunyenji had gone out to see the man she liked. She didn't say it was her boyfriend because she hadn't officially said it. From Ma Chichi's perspective, any relationship that couldn't be made public wasn't considered a relationship. Therefore, she wouldn't ask if Gunyenji didn't say it. It was her privacy. Gu Nianji returned to her room and took off her coat to throw it on the small two-seater sofa by the wall. She walked to the bathroom to shower. She stood under the shower head in the bathroom, the hot water washing her sweaty body. She couldn't help smiling and blushing as she recalled the scene just now. She hummed a song as she showered. The rushing water washed away the fatigue and nervousness of the day. Gu Nianji was in a very good mood and went to sleep comfortably after her shower. The next day was Friday. Gu Nianji hadn't eaten at the library all day and finally finished the thesis Hijichu had assigned at 5 p.m. She emailed it to him. Her stomach growled as she packed her bag. Gu Nianji hurriedly walked out of the library. She originally wanted to go back and shower before calling Hua Xiaoheng to ask about the car. However, her phone was already ringing. It wasn't Hua Xiaoheng's exclusive ringtone. Gu Nianji took out her phone and saw it was Fan Jian calling. She quickly said, "Brother Fan, where are you? I'm already downstairs from your dorm. Where are you?" Fan Jian's voice came from the phone. He sounded a bit anxious. Gu Nianji quickly said, "I'm in the library. I just came out and was about to go back to the dorm." "I'm already downstairs from your dorm." Fan Jian sighed in relief. "Come back soon, little miss." Gu Nianji giggled. "I'll be right back. Wait for me." She left the library and found her bike. She quickly rode it back to the dorm. "Nianji, this way. Get in." Fan Jian stood in front of the car door. His posture was straight. He had a well-built body and regular features. He had the word righteousness written all over his body. "I'm not going back to the dorm?" Gu Nianji locked her bike in the bike shed downstairs and walked out with her bag. "I haven't taken my things yet." "Your things are already there. What else are you going to take?" Fan Jian quickly opened the door. "Hurry up and go back. Hua Xiao has been so busy these past few days that he doesn't even have time to eat. We're hoping you can hurry back and give him a good meal." "Why aren't you eating?" Gu Nianji was also anxious. "Okay, I'll go now." She took out her phone and left a message for Ma Chichi. "Chichi, I'm going home. I won't be going back to the dorm. Have a good weekend." Gu Nianji had just fastened her seatbelt when she got into the car. She looked up and saw Miao Yunxiao standing not too far away. She was staring at her, but she didn't know if she was looking at her or the car. Gu Nianji didn't mind and said to Fan Jian, "I'm done. Let's go." Fan Jian started the car and quickly drove out of the south gate of B University. He headed to the official residence of the Special Ops headquarters in the imperial capital. "Has Hua Xiao been busy lately? Why can't he even eat?" Gu Nianji was curious. Is there a need for that with his current position? Hua Xiaoheng was already a major general. This meant that he was more in charge of people and not doing things himself. He could only be more useful if he gathered a group of capable subordinates. He couldn't do everything himself. "It's a long story. We're just subordinates. It's not our place to persuade him. Nianji, if you have the heart, help persuade Hua Xiao." Fan Jian smiled and looked at her in the rearview mirror. "Hua Xiao will still listen to you." Gu Nianji's heart was filled with sweetness, but she also felt a bit embarrassed. She leaned forward and rested her arm on the back of the seat in front of her. "I should be the one listening to Hua Xiao. Why would he listen to me?" "You have a point. Of course Hua Xiao listens to you." Fan Jian looked at her again. "Nianji, you and Hua Xiao." Gu Nianji's face instantly flushed. She retracted her arm and leaned back in her seat. She said meekly, "There's nothing between me and Hua Xiao. Brother Fan, please don't say things like that." "Nothing is the best." Fan Jian sighed in relief. His mood lightened. "We all know Hua Xiao is good to you. He's been good to you since you were young. It didn't just start now, right?" "Yes, of course." Gu Nianji nodded. "I only knew Hua Xiao when I was young. I remember it all." The two chatted and laughed. Soon they arrived at Hua Xiaoheng's headquarters. Hua Xiaoheng had just been called away by Speaker Long. His car and Gu Nianji's car almost brushed past each other. Gu Nianji sat in the car and didn't know, but Fan Jian knew Hua Xiaoheng's whereabouts from the central control system. He looked at Gu Nianji in the rearview mirror and said quietly, "Nianji, when we get home, eat and rest by yourself. The situation has changed." Gu Nianji froze. "What's wrong? Did Hua Xiao have something urgent to do?" "Yes, I just received news that Speaker Long called Hua Xiao over. Hua Xiao just left the headquarters." Fan Jian resisted telling her that Hua Xiaoheng's car had just brushed past their car. Gu Nianji would be even more upset if she heard it. As expected, Gu Nianji's mood was already gloomy. She grabbed her bag and unconsciously tore at a pendant on it. The excitement in her heart had already dissipated. She thought that her mood swings were too great. It was worse than when she was with Hua Xiaoheng in the past. Back then Hua Xiaoheng often went on missions or went to meetings. She had never been this worried. Gu Nianji comforted herself, but she still couldn't calm down. Because the expectations she had for Hua Xiaoheng in the past were completely different from the feelings she had now. The car stopped in front of Hua Xiaoheng's official residence. Gu Nianji opened the door and walked out. The inky night had already rushed in. She looked back at the road she had come from and saw that it was already dark. Hua Xiaoheng sat in the car and rubbed his temples. He said to Yin Shixiang, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, "Fan Jian has already gone to pick Nianji up, right?" "Yes, he went around 4 in the morning. He should be on his way back now, right?" Yin Shixiang answered Fan Jian's call. "Little Fan, are you back?" "Big Xiong, we're back. Nianji just got out of the car," Fan Jian said as he passed the phone to Gu Nianji. "It's Big Xiong." Gu Nianji quickly took it. "Brother Xiong, where's Hua Xiao?" "Hua Xiao is here." Yin Shixiang passed the phone to Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiaoheng took it. His deep voice came out of the phone and magically soothed Gu Nianji's restless emotions. "Nianji, wait for a moment. I'll be back soon." This was the first update. A reminder for the monthly votes and recommendation votes. The second was a 5,000-word chapter. Around 2 p.m. Mwah. Oh, intersection. Oh. Chapter 382. Gu Nianji's fluttering heart finally calmed down. Hua Xiaoheng's voice was emotionless over the phone. He was simply stating a fact to her calmly. But ordinary words sounded different to the ears of a lover. She agreed quietly and said, "Okay, I'll wait for you to come back." "Okay, good girl." Hua Xiaoheng hung up and passed the phone back to Yin Shixiang, who was in the front passenger seat. He sat alone in the back seat with his elbows on the side of the window. He was deep in thought. For the past few days they had been searching for the actual situation of the people named Gu Xiangwen without rest, but it seemed that they had reached a dead end. A few days ago, after receiving authorization from the Supreme Military Council and the Senate, the Special Operations Forces had sent people down to find the dozens of people named Gu Xiangwen on their list. Then they used all kinds of excuses to obtain their blood and bring it back to the imperial capital for DNA testing. The results were depressing. There were dozens of Gu Xiangwen around the same age, but none of them matched Gu Nianji's DNA. They couldn't even find a distant relative who was slightly similar. Could it be that they had missed some important clue? Hua Xiaoheng repeatedly thought about the name Gu Nianji called out when she was unconscious. He couldn't help but feel that it had something to do with Gu Nianji. But if it really was related, what was it? Could it not be related by blood? But Gu Nianji had clearly said in her sleep that it was her father. A father who wasn't related by blood? Hua Xiaoheng rubbed his forehead and sighed softly. He had a vague feeling that the truth was not far away, but there was a layer of fog in between. If the fog didn't dissipate, they wouldn't be able to see the truth. No matter how he thought about it, they must have missed something important. Yin Shixiang played with his phone for a while and turned to ask Hua Xiaoheng, "Hua Xiao, did Speaker Long say anything to you? Do you want to make arrangements in advance?" Hua Xiaoheng propped his chin on his hand and turned to look at the night sky flying by outside the window. He said calmly, "What could it be? We are the military and they are the Senate. We have our own rules." "That's true." Yin Shixiang nodded. "However, we've always had a good relationship with the upper house of parliament. The military allocations are approved by the upper house every year." Hua Xiaoheng glanced at Yin Shixiang. "We'll apply according to the rules and they'll allocate funds according to the law. There's no question of who's begging whom." Of course, he would not take the initiative to sour his relationship with the parliament. In fact, every problem in this world has a solution. It's up to you to find it. Half an hour later, Hua Xiaoheng's car finally stopped in front of Speaker Long's house. Because it was a weekend night, everyone was very relaxed. Senior Speaker Long's house was very lively. People came and went, and luxury cars filled the parking lot not far away. There were songs and laughter everywhere as if they were having a party. When he got out of the car, he immediately smelled the aroma of roasted meat in the air. For Hua Xiaoheng, who had been starving and full for several days, the temptation of this kind of food was the most unbearable. He clenched his fists and coughed lightly, then said to Yin Shixiang, "Go ask what happened." He thought it was official business, but from the looks of it, it seemed to be a private matter. Hua Xiaoheng leaned against the car door unhappily, bent one of his long legs and lit a cigarette. After 2 puffs, someone walked up to him and reminded him softly, "Sir, this is a non-smoking area. You can't smoke here. Please put out your cigarette." The voice sounded strangely similar to Gunyanji's voice, and he could almost look forward to Gunyanji's mature and moving voice. Wu Xiaoheng looked up. The light shone from the door and the person stood with her back to the light. Her face was a bit dark, but it wasn't completely invisible. The light seemed to be specially soft, and it illuminated the woman in front of him. Her skin was as white as jade, and her facial features were 40 to 50% similar to Gunyanji's. Perhaps this was what Gunyanji would look like when she was fully grown? Wu Xiaoheng took a second look. Speaker Long's voice quickly came from behind. Xiaoheng? Xiaoheng? You're here? Why aren't you going in? Speaker Long walked to the woman and stood face to face with Wu Xiaoheng. He glanced at them with a smile. Huh? You guys are already talking? I was just about to introduce him to you. Wu Xiaoheng bowed slightly. Speaker Long patted him on the shoulder and introduced the woman to him. This is Xie Qingying, my niece. Oh yes, her father's surname is also Xie. Speaking of which, he's from the same family as your grandmother, the Xie family. Then he introduced Wu Xiaoheng to Xie Qingying. This is Wu Xiaoheng. He's the youngest general we were talking about. Xie Qingying finally saw Wu Xiaoheng's face clearly. Wu Xiaoheng was standing against the light. When he lowered his head to smoke earlier, the woman only thought that his figure was tall and straight, and he looked especially handsome when he smoked. But no matter how handsome he was, he couldn't smoke in a non-smoking area. It was a matter of principle. But now that he looked up and saw his face clearly, Xie Qingying only thought in her heart that with such a handsome face, he would be forgiven no matter what he did, right? Not to mention it was just smoking. Xie Qingying secretly laughed at herself for being infatuated. She gracefully extended her hand to Wu Xiaoheng. You're Major General Hua? Nice to meet you. Wu Xiaoheng held a cigarette in one hand and shook her hand with the other. Nice to meet you. His hand was wide and warm and the center of his palm was especially hot. Xie Qingying could feel it as soon as she shook his hand. She was quiet for a few seconds before saying, Major General Hua must be feeling hot recently, right? You should eat some warm soup to balance it out. Wu Xiaoheng smiled. It's all right. I've been busy with work recently. He looked at Speaker Long, who was smiling. Speaker Long, do you want to talk in the study? This meant that he wasn't here to attend a party. He was here because Speaker Long had business to attend to. Speaker Long laughed and rubbed his head. Yes, let's talk in the study. Then he winked at Xie Qingying. Qingying, please grill some meat for us. Xiaoheng and I will talk while we eat. Yes, uncle. The corners of Xie Qingying's mouth curled up into a smile, revealing a pair of dimples. Her smile resembled Gunyanji's. Wu Xiaoheng didn't say anything and quietly followed Speaker Long into his study. Along the way, people kept greeting him or Speaker Long. He only nodded and smiled along the way and didn't say anything. Just like that, they arrived at Speaker Long's study on the 3rd floor. This was also Speaker Long's office and took up an entire floor. The entrance was guarded by people from the Special Task Force, and the security requirements were very strict. Of course, Wu Xiaoheng didn't need additional security checks because he was already one of the highest-ranking people in the Empire's security system. There were less than 5 people like him in the entire Wuxia Empire. When he sat down in Speaker Long's study, Speaker Long personally made him a cup of tea. Come try it. It's authentic Dahong Pao tea leaves from the Dahong Pao mother tree in the south. It's been 5 years and I've only been given 2 ounces of tea leaves. I didn't even give it to my wife when she wanted to drink it. Wu Xiaoheng was about to drink from the teacup when he heard Speaker Long's words. He put it down with a half-smile. Speaker Long, don't trick me. Your wife can't even drink something she wants to drink. If you give it to me, will your wife still look at me in the future? How is that possible? I'm the one who didn't give it to her and only gave it to you. Why would she be angry at you? Speaker Long laughed heartily as he sat down across from him. He first took a sip happily, then closed his eyes to savor the sweet fragrance of authentic Dahong Pao tea. Wu Xiaoheng said, Don't tell me that if you really did that, your wife definitely wouldn't hate you. She would only hate me for drinking something she wants to drink but can't. I really can't out-talk you. Speaker Long laughed heartily. Alright, I was just joking with you. I was just exaggerating. You didn't take it seriously, did you? Wu Xiaoheng finally raised his teacup again and took a sip. He smiled and said, It's good that you're joking. It's my honor to be able to drink Speaker Long's Dahong Pao tea. Look at you, you're joking too. Speaker Long burst into laughter, and his hearty laughter echoed throughout the room. It was very infectious. Wu Xiaoheng raised his teacup to him. Speaker Long, then I'll use tea in place of wine to toast you. Toast me once is enough. What's with a cup? Speaker Long pretended to be reluctant and teased him. The two of them exchanged a few more pleasantries before Speaker Long got to the point. Xiaoheng, I called you here today because it's the weekend and I wanted you to relax and have fun with everyone. Don't focus on work, Speaker Long said earnestly. Speaker Long said earnestly, as you know, today the Senate is reviewing the budget expenditure for the next year and the promotion and demotion of personnel. There are so many senior generals in the military, but you are the only single one. This is indeed not good, and it will not be beneficial for your future promotion. Hua Xiaoheng sat leisurely on the sofa and slowly placed the teacup in his hand on the coffee table. He said calmly, I'm thinking about personal matters. Please rest assured, Speaker Long. Before Speaker Long could reply, someone on the intercom at the door said, Is Speaker Long inside? General Ji is here. Invite him in. Invite him in. Speaker Long stood up. The door to the study was pushed open and General Ji strode in. Old Long, you called Xiaoheng over to cancel the engagement on your own? You didn't even wait for me? General Ji's voice was especially loud. As soon as he spoke, the entire room exploded. Hua Xiaoheng also stood up and saluted General Ji. Hello, Chief. Good. Sit, don't be shy. As he spoke, he and Speaker Long sat across from Hua Xiaoheng. It was a 2-to-1 ratio. Hua Xiaoheng calmly sat down across from them. His expressionless face was as expressionless as ever. Speaker Long glanced at him and said to General Ji, Didn't I tell you? Xiaoheng isn't even 30 yet. This kind of bearing is really rare. You have to nurture him well. Of course, that goes without saying. General Ji was very proud of his foresight. He took an envelope out of his pocket and threw it on the coffee table in the middle of the sofa. See, this is also my foresight. Xiaoheng, back then, I deliberately picked you out of so many lieutenants to carry out a special mission. The mission was successfully completed, and your rank rose higher and higher. After so many years, do you think I didn't misjudge you? How was Hua Xiaoheng supposed to answer this? However, he could only bite the bullet and answer, You definitely didn't misjudge me. Speaker Long was amused by him again and said, All right, you two can stop acting. Come on, old Ji, let's talk business. Business is these photos. General Ji tipped the envelope down and many photos fell out. They were all photos of women, all very beautiful, and the kind of beauty that hadn't been photographed. Hua Xiaoheng glanced at them casually. These photos are of missing persons? General Ji finally couldn't stand Hua Xiaoheng. You only know how to joke around with me. I'll be straightforward today. The military wants you to get married, and these are the suitable partners. You can choose well, and we'll hold a blind date and invite all the bachelors in the military to participate. What do you think? The corners of Hua Xiaoheng's mouth finally twitched. He picked up his teacup and took another sip. I'm already thinking about my personal problems. I don't need a blind date, but there are some bachelors in the Special Operations Forces who need to deal with their personal problems. I'll ask them to attend the blind date when the time comes. Xiaoheng, you're good. You're sacrificing your own friends for me. Speaker Long clicked his tongue. Sly. Too sly. Hua Xiaoheng smiled but didn't say anything. He put down his teacup and heard the door to the study open again. Xie Qingying came in with a large plate of barbecued meat. You guys must be hungry. Qingying, come here and greet Uncle Ji. Speaker Long very kindly introduced General Ji to her. Xie Qingying greeted General Ji politely and divided the barbecued meat for the three of them. She placed knives, forks, chopsticks and condiments on the coffee table. Enjoy yourselves, I'll be leaving now. If you want more, just call me Uncle and I'll bring it up. Xie Qingying left the study as she spoke. She didn't look at Hua Xiaoheng again, but Hua Xiaoheng kept looking at her back thoughtfully. General Ji and Speaker Long sensed Hua Xiaoheng's different feelings towards Xie Qingying. They looked at each other and felt that there was a chance. General Ji deliberately asked Speaker Long about Xie Qingying. Old Long, why don't I remember you having a niece with the surname Xie? And she's all grown up. Speaker Long took out his knife and fork to eat a piece of barbecued meat. He finished the skewer before saying, She's actually not my cousin's biological daughter. Her father is a distant relative of the Xie family. When the Xie family all went abroad to settle down, their branch also moved out. Xie Qingying was born abroad. But her mother passed away early, and her father only recently remarried my cousin. Xie Qingying is my cousin's stepdaughter. Here, this is a photo of their family. Speaker Long explained the complicated relationship and even took out Xie Qingying's family photo at the end. It was obvious that he had come prepared. Hua Xiaoheng took it and looked at it. There were two photos. One was a photo of Xie Qingying's biological parents holding a little girl. The other was a photo of Xie Qingying's father and stepmother. Xie Qingying was already in her current state. She wore a polite smile as she sat next to her father. Hua Xiaoheng's gaze was attracted to Xie Qingying's biological mother. It was obvious that Xie Qingying looked like her mother. General Ji frowned and said, "Oh, the cousin whose husband passed away a few years ago?" Yes, her husband passed away before she had a child. She went abroad to relax and met Qingying's father. The two of them fell in love and remarried. Speaker Long looked at Hua Xiaoheng. "Xiaoheng, Qingying grew up abroad and returned to the country with her father and stepmother not long ago. Do you have time to take her out for a walk?" General Ji heard this and quickly said, "Oh right, why don't you take Piaohong and accompany Miss Xie around the imperial capital?" Hua Xiaoheng ignored the two old men whose combined ages were over 100 years old, trying to play matchmaker. He looked at Speaker Long and said, "Miss Xie grew up abroad and is also a foreign citizen. According to regulations, I can't be alone with foreigners in private." The Huaxia Empire did have such regulations. If people of their status wanted to interact with foreigners, a third party had to be present and they had to report it to the relevant authorities afterwards. Speaker Long coughed and said, "Her family has already given up their foreign citizenship and settled down in the Huaxia Empire, so you don't have to worry about this." "I'm not worried, I just don't want to violate national regulations." Hua Xiaoheng nodded calmly and handed the two photos back to Speaker Long. He asked casually, "What's the name of Miss Xie's biological mother?" "I don't know about that." Speaker Long shrugged. "Ask her again when she comes to deliver the barbecue later." "No need, I still have things to do. Thank you for the tea and barbecue today, Speaker Long. I'll treat you again next time." Hua Xiaoheng stood up and saluted General Ji again. Okay, you can go." General Ji smiled and waved his hand. "You have to pay attention to your personal problems, understand? Don't force our old man to do anything." "Yes, Chief." Hua Xiaoheng nodded to General Ji and Speaker Long and turned to leave. When he came out of the study, he ran into Xie Qingying, who was carrying another plate of barbecue. Seeing Hua Xiaoheng come out, Xie Qingying quickly asked, "Major General Hua, don't you want to eat more?" "No, I still have things to do." Hua Xiaoheng nodded at her, then suddenly reached out and gently brushed her shoulder. "There's a bug." Xie Qingying was shocked and almost knocked over the plate of barbecue in her hand. She stood there in shock, her whole body stiff. "What bug? Major General Hua? Did you get rid of the bug?" "Yes, I did." Hua Xiaoheng retracted his hand and held a strand of Xie Qingying's hair firmly in his palm. The two of them passed each other in the hallway. However, after a few steps, he suddenly stopped as if he remembered something. He turned around and asked Xie Qingying, "Miss Xie, what's the name of your biological mother?" "Gu Tian," Xie Qingying blurted out. This was the second chapter of the novel, which was 5,000 words long. Because it was a big chapter, it took an extra hour. She just wanted to ask, "Do you still have monthly votes? What about recommendation votes?" "Oh, intersection. Oh." Chapter 383. Hua Xiaoheng thought about it. "So your mother's surname is Gu." Xie Qingying thought Hua Xiaoheng was talking about her calling Speaker Long uncle. She composed herself and said, "My birth mother's surname is indeed Gu, but my stepmother's surname is Long, so it's not too much for me to call Speaker Long uncle, right?" In-law relationships weren't based on blood. Hua Xiaoheng smiled and said, "Of course not. I don't know if Speaker Long told you, but my grandmother was from the Xie family, so maybe we're related." Xie Qingying was surprised. "I didn't know. Uncle hasn't mentioned this yet. I just returned from Europe with my father and stepmother a few days ago, so I'm still jet-lagged." "Then rest well, Miss Xie. I won't disturb you any longer." Hua Xiaoheng nodded and strode away. Xie Qingying was still confused. She carried the barbecue plate to Speaker Long's study and said, "Uncle, I just met Major General Hua in the hallway. He asked me what my birth mother's name was. Did you tell him about me?" Speaker Long was overjoyed. "You really asked?" "Yes." Xie Qingying looked at Speaker Long's surprised expression and couldn't help laughing. "You're smiling so happily. Did something good happen?" "Something good? Something good. Maybe something good will happen very soon." Speaker Long looked at the Dahong Pao in front of him and waved his hand. "No tea. Old G, let's drink. Qingying, go find your aunt and tell her I want Mauta." "Where did she put it?" Xie Qingying stood up with a smile. "I'll go find my aunt." After she left, General Ji quietly asked Speaker Long, Do you think there's a chance between these two? Speaker Long's smile disappeared. Actually, I'm both happy and worried if there's a chance between them. General Ji thought about it and muttered to himself, actually, it's not that complicated. Everything starts with a good impression. I think that if it works out, Nianji will be their matchmaker. What are you worried about? Old Ji, you just don't understand people. If they can get together, it means that Xiaoheng has different feelings for Gu Nianji. Otherwise, do you think it's so easy to develop feelings for her? Speaker Long shook his head. However, we will definitely keep an eye on him and make sure he doesn't make any mistakes. General Ji's feelings for Hua Xiaoheng were different from Speaker Long's. Speaker Long was treating Hua Xiaoheng from the perspective of national interests. General Ji had watched Hua Xiaoheng grow up, so his concern for him was more like concern for his nephew. Old Long, to be honest, I still don't think Xiaoheng and Nianji have any special relationship. But if they do, as long as Gu Nianji can find out that her family background is clean, I won't object. You don't object? So what if Gu Nianji had a clean background? She grew up with Xiaoheng at the age of 12. What would outsiders say about Xiaoheng if they found out? Don't you know that gossip is a fearful thing? Speaker Long was so angry that he slammed the coffee table. If you had experienced the ups and downs of the election, you would know what I mean. That's really taking a small black spot and magnifying it with a magnifying glass, and then distorting it to an unbearable degree. Old Long, this is where we have a different view. A clear conscience is not afraid of a crooked shadow. Let outsiders speak. It's not like we can shut people up anyway. When you have a conflict of interest with others, even if you don't have any black spots, others will create black spots for you. So why should we care about what those people say? General Ji waved his hand disapprovingly. Alright, Old Long, no matter what, let's not argue. We are all doing this for Xiaoheng's own good. He is a reasonable person and will definitely not let us down. Speaker Long thought about it with a straight face for a long time before nodding reluctantly. Alright, Old Ji, you've convinced me this time. But let's get the ugly words out of the way first. Xiaoheng's position is extremely important, so his wife must be approved by the organization. Also, she must go through the most stringent security checks. Do you agree? Agree. Agree. Of course I agree. Xiaoheng knows his priorities. If he doesn't feel at ease, he won't marry her. You can rest assured. General Ji and Speaker Long reached out their hands at the same time and high-fived to seal the deal. Hua Xiaoheng returned to his car, still holding the strand of hair tightly in his hand. His palm was already hot to begin with, and now it was even more damp. He was worried that the DNA test wouldn't be able to be done if the hair was stained, so he asked Yin Shixiang after getting into the car, Big Xiong, do you have a small plastic bag for evidence in the car? Yes, we have it all in the car. Yin Shixiang opened a partition and took out a small box. He opened the box and took out a brand new plastic bag. Give me the whole box. Hua Xiaoheng reached out. Yin Shixiang handed the whole box over. Hua Xiaoheng opened the box and took out a pair of transparent plastic gloves to wear. He then picked up a pair of tweezers and carefully placed the strand of hair on a piece of white cotton paper to absorb the sweat before placing it in the small plastic bag. Yin Shixiang looked back but didn't ask anything. He looked ahead silently. Everyone was silent the entire way in the car and quickly returned to the Special Operations Forces headquarters. Hua Xiaoheng didn't return to the official residence first. Instead, he called Chenlai and asked, "Where are you?" Chenlai had been busy helping those Gu Xiangwen blood samples for DNA testing the past few days. He had just returned home to sleep for a few hours. Hua Xiaoheng's phone call had woken him up. He felt very uncomfortable, so he closed his eyes and covered himself with the blankets. His voice was muffled as he said, "Hua Xiao, you have something very important to tell me. Otherwise, the consequences of waking me up will be very serious." Hua Xiaoheng said calmly, "I have something urgent to talk to you about." But Chenlai replied angrily, "I made some more stuff. You can help me with the DNA test." Hua Xiaoheng paused. His fingers unconsciously tapped on the side of the car window, making a soft tapping sound that was particularly ear-piercing in the silent car. Chenlai lifted the blankets and sat up. He scratched his messy hair with one hand and was speechless for a moment. He said, "Where did you get this? I'm telling you, those people aren't right. They have nothing to do with Nianji. I've tested many pieces of DNA. I'm almost done with all of them. Where did you get the information that the name Gu Xiangwen has something to do with Nianji?" Of course, Hua Xiaoheng couldn't say where he got the information. He said calmly, "According to the country's security laws, I can't reveal my source to you." Chenlai was speechless. Fine, you're in the right because you have a higher rank. Chin Lai groaned as he got off the bed. His expression was very unpleasant, but he still said to the phone, I'll go to the lab right away. Where's your stuff? I can at least ask what it is, right? It's a strand of hair. Xiaoheng looked at the small plastic bag in front of him. Is it enough? Of course it's enough. Don't worry about my skills. Chin Lai found some clothes lazily and put them on. He didn't even comb his hair and ran out of the house to the lab at the base. On the way he met Yi Zitan. She was carrying an insulated lunchbox and was talking and laughing with a tall and handsome man. Chin Lai's heart ached. He pretended not to see them and hurriedly ran past them with his head down. The man glanced at Chin Lai's back, then at Yi Zitan. He wanted to say something but stopped. Yi Zitan was still telling him about the interesting things that happened in the hospital. That day I came back from a ward round. Not long after I sat down to rest, the door was pushed open. A man rushed in and kowtowed to me. I was scared and quickly helped him up. I asked him what he wanted. And then he told me about his illness. I was so embarrassed. Huh? Because he went to the wrong room and kowtowed to the wrong person. Yi Zitan burst out laughing. You didn't see the man's face. He really wanted to beat me up. That can't be helped. The man nodded. As the saying goes, desperate patients turn to any doctor they can find. It's possible to get the wrong room number. Yi Zitan sighed. Dr. Ho is always so understanding and gentle. Patients love doctors like you the most. The man's name was Ho Qingren. He was sent to the Imperial Capital Hospital by the hospital below him to study. He was especially warm to Yi Zitan. Dr. Yi, you flatter me. Actually, what's the use of being a doctor with a good temper? As long as you can cure an illness, even the most bad-tempered doctor is the god of saving patients. Ho Qingren really knew how to talk. His words hit home with Yi Zitan. Yes, some people don't have good tempers, but their medical skills and medical ethics are great. I think it's already very rare, Yi Zitan said as she looked at the dormitory building in front of them. Ho Qingren asked with a smile, I haven't asked you, who did you make the food in the insulated box for? Oh, I sent it to Dr. Chen. He's been busy with military affairs and hasn't slept for a few days. I heard that he doesn't eat well either. He's just making do. I just happened to make some soup, so I sent it to him. Yi Zitan walked to Chin Lai and said to Ho Qingren, I don't know if he likes soup. I don't know if Dr. Chen likes soup, but I know he's not upstairs right now. Ho Qingren smiled and pointed. Oh. Yi Zitan was shocked. I remember he's always sleeping in the dormitory. He walked past us just now and went in that direction. Ho Qingren pointed in the direction he came from. Why didn't you call out to me? I didn't even see him. Yi Zitan said with annoyance and uneasily switched the insulated lunchbox to her right hand. She thought about it. I'll go over there and take a look. Dr. Chen must have gone to the lab. Yi Zitan said goodbye to Ho Qingren and went to the lab. Ho Qingren sighed and shook his head before turning to leave. Chin Lai arrived at the lab and saw Hua Xiaoheng already waiting at the door. As soon as he saw him, Hua Xiaoheng handed him a small plastic bag. Hurry up. When can we get the results by? Chin Lai accepted the plastic bag and said listlessly, That depends on what kind of results you want. What do you mean? It depends on what kind of relationship you want to test. Chin Lai opened the lab door and walked in. He put on the white lab coat hanging on the wall and turned to Hua Xiaoheng. What kind of relative is it this time? Mother? Last time it was to test if those people were Gu Nianji's father. This time he was taking a strand of hair. Was it probably to test for her mother? Hua Xiaoheng curled his lips. No, I don't know what kind of relationship it is this time. Test as much as you can. Are you kidding? Chin Lai was furious. Are you kidding me? How are you going to test this? Immediate family relationships were easy to test, but if you didn't know what kind of relationship it was, it would be extremely troublesome to test. Hua Xiaoheng patted him on the shoulder so hard he almost fell to the ground. Chin Lai, I have faith in you. You're so smart and capable. You'll definitely be able to find the similarity between this strand of hair and Gu Nianji's DNA and deduce their relationship, right? Chin Lai looked at Hua Xiaoheng from the corner of his eyes and smiled. I didn't think there would be a day when Hua Xiaoheng would compliment someone. I've lived long enough to see it. Fine, I'll give it a try just because of what you said. He put the machine on the rack and placed the strand of hair inside. He would first extract the DNA fragments from the hair, then conduct a comprehensive test. Finally, he would compare it with Gu Nianji's DNA. This was the most comprehensive test with the highest accuracy. Because they weren't sure about the relationship this time, they had to do this. They had confirmed the relationship before, so it would be much easier to verify it with DNA. That was because the DNA fragments of immediate family members were 99.5% similar. If it couldn't reach this level, then there would be no immediate family relationship. Hua Xiaoheng reminded him, this isn't an immediate family relationship, but a cousin relationship. If there is a relationship at all. Qinlai waved his hand. No need to say that. Let the DNA do the talking. Hua Xiaoheng smiled slightly and walked over with his hands behind his back. He tilted his head to watch Qinlai operate skillfully. Not long after, Yi Zitan's voice sounded from behind him. Hua Xiaoheng is here too? Yi Zitan walked in with the insulated lunchbox in her hand. Qinlai wanted to turn around, but when he recalled what he had just seen, he felt terrible and didn't want to turn around. He stiffened his neck and focused on the experiment. Hua Xiaoheng turned around to look at Yi Zitan, then at Qinlai's awkward expression. He pursed his lips into a smile and said to Yi Zitan, Dr. Yi is here. Are you here to deliver food to Dr. Qin? Yi Zitan saw that Qinlai didn't turn around and was a little embarrassed. She really wanted to turn around and leave, but she couldn't bear to. Hua Xiaoheng's words gave her a way out. She walked over with the lunchbox and nodded. Yes, I saw that Dr. Qin hasn't been eating or sleeping well these past few days, so I made some soup for him. Qinlai's ears twitched, but he still didn't turn around. Hua Xiaoheng glanced at him amusedly and turned around. Oh, maybe Dr. Qin doesn't want soup. I'm hungry anyway, so give it to me. I promise I'll finish it all. Get out. Qinlai turned around abruptly and snatched the lunchbox from Hua Xiaoheng's hands. Go home and eat. Why are you fighting with me over food? Hua Xiaoheng spread his hands. I thought you wanted to eat, so I took it. Alright, if you want it, then don't say one thing and mean another. He winked at Qinlai and patted Yi Zitan's shoulder before walking out. Qinlai's voice came from behind him. If you want to go out, then go out. Don't touch other people. He seemed to be afraid of Hua Xiaoheng's behavior toward Yi Zitan. Yi Zitan quickly said, Dr. Qin, Hua Xiaoheng didn't mean anything by it. Don't talk to him like that. Here, do you want some soup? Qinlai's anger was completely dissipated by Yi Zitan's gentle words. He sat in front of the table with a silly smile on his face as he watched Yi Zitan bring him a bowl and chopsticks, pouring him soup. His smile was one of bliss. When Hua Xiaoheng walked out of the lab, he looked back and smiled as he turned to leave. Gu Nianji waited for Hua Xiaoheng to come back, but there was no news until midnight. Hua Xiaoheng didn't show up or go home for the entire weekend. Gu Nianji returned to campus on Sunday night and felt very uncomfortable. He had sent a car to pick her up, but he didn't even show up. What was the meaning of this? Hua Xiaoheng spent the past 2 days in his office in the lab and personally watched Qinlai's experiments. By Sunday night, Qinlai's DNA sequence was finally complete. He looked at the results and sighed deeply. He took a thick stack of reports to Hua Xiaoheng's office and knocked on the door. Hua Xiaoheng, the results are out. Hua Xiaoheng looked up. His expression didn't change much, but his arms were trembling slightly from nervousness. Qinlai didn't notice this at all because he was also very excited. Hua Xiaoheng, after 6 years, we finally found someone related to Nianji. Hua Xiaoheng stood up. Did you find out what kind of blood relationship they are? If it's on the paternal side, they should be cousins, Qinlai said excitedly. If it's on the maternal side, the situation will be even more complicated. Hua Xiaoheng, tell me it's on the paternal side, right? Hua Xiaoheng looked through the reports and nodded. I guess so. If there was really a blood relationship, then Xie Qingying's birth mother, Gu Tian, and Gu Nianji's father should be biological siblings or siblings. Since the results were out, Hua Xiaoheng didn't need to hide it from Qinlai anymore. He told him about Xie Qingying's situation. Qinlai suddenly understood. If that's the case, then it must be close. The DNA test proves that they are related and they look similar. That should be it. He then asked, what about Gu Tian? If we can find her, Gu Xiangwen will definitely be able to find her. That's the unfortunate part. Hua Xiaoheng sighed deeply. Gu Tian passed away a long time ago. Qinlai was speechless. How did she pass away? Did you find out? I've been asking little Zay to help me search for information over the past 2 days as well as the Xies. I personally called my cousin in Europe to ask about Xie Qingying's mother. The cousin Hua Xiaoheng was referring to was his grandmother, Xie Zian's grandnephew. What do you mean? Since she was able to marry into the Xies should know her very well, right? Qinlai asked eagerly. Not really. Hua Xiaoheng shook his head with a smile. Xie Qingying's father and my cousin's family are many generations apart, so they don't really interact much. It's just that the Xies have a strong sense of clan, so we're still on the same family tree, so we can be considered relatives. Oh. Don't tell me your cousin doesn't know about Gu Tian? When they got married more than 20 years ago, my cousin's family sent gifts, so he has some impression of Gu Tian. He only knows that she wasn't in good health and died a month after giving birth. Wu Xiaoheng took out the results of his investigation. So our only lead now is Xie Qingying's father, Xie Dezhao. This was the first chapter with 5,000 words. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. A reminder to you for your monthly votes and recommendation votes. 7 o'clock in the evening. What? Oh, and if... Oh. Chapter 384. Xie Dezhao married Gu Tian, so he must be very familiar with the Gu family. Qinlai let out a long sigh. I finally found it. After a pause, Qinlai said, Then is the Gu family not in the country? Yes, my cousin said that Xie Dezhao and his first wife met and married overseas. They were both born and raised overseas. Wu Xiaoheng paused and frowned slightly. Qinlai sensed it very sensitively and turned to ask him, What's wrong? Is there a problem? I'm thinking that if Nianji really is a daughter of the Gu family, then she probably isn't from the Huaxia Empire. Wu Xiaoheng looked at the stack of documents thoughtfully. She appeared in our country, so it must have been when her family brought her back for a vacation or to visit relatives and friends. But why hasn't anyone looked for her in all these years? Yes, we checked the missing person report records back then. Qinlai nodded. There was no case similar to Gu Nianji's situation at all. Where were her relatives? If they knew that she was missing, why didn't they come to find her? With Wu Xiaoheng's familiarity and control of the Huaxia Empire's immigration control, if someone really entered the country, I forgot to check one place. Wu Xiaoheng's expression changed. If Nianji is a foreigner, then the immigration office must have her entry and exit records. At that time, we only checked the records of police stations across the country and didn't find her name in the immigration records. Who knew she was a foreigner back then? Qinlai smiled bitterly. I still remember her. She was like a wary little animal. She didn't speak, but when she did speak, it was fluent Mandarin. There was no sign of her speaking another language. Wu Xiaoheng immediately stood up. Repeat the experiment again and hope to get the same result. I'll go find little Zhe. Wu Xiaoheng hurriedly left Qinlai's lab and returned to his office. He said to Zhao Liangzi, who was waiting for him there, immediately check the customs entry and exit records before Nianji appeared 6 years ago. Find out if there's anyone named Gu Nianji. Zhao Liangzi gasped and stood up abruptly. Mr. Hua, you found Nianji's family? Not yet. But I hope it will be soon. Wu Xiaoheng walked in front of him. Investigate carefully. Don't let a single one go. I want to see who brought her here back then. Gu Nianji had only been 12 years old 6 years ago, so it was unlikely that she had entered the country alone. Even if a person entered the country alone, there must be a letter of entrustment from his family to entrust to the stewardess to take care of him. This was also documented. Zhao Liangzi was excited. I'll check right away. He had a special software that could search for a person's name in a sea of data. It was fast and would not miss anything. It was much faster and more accurate than searching by hand. Zhao Liangzi and Qinlai worked together on both sides with Wu Xiaoheng in the middle. No matter what support they needed, he would give them the green light. From the entry and exit administration of the customs to the temporary registration office for foreigners and the local authorities, they gave him whatever materials he wanted. If the other party showed any signs of shirking responsibility, Wu Xiaoheng would personally call their leader. Just like that, layers of green lights were turned on, and everyone's work progress was very fast. Zhao Liangzi even traced back to the year of Gu Nianji's birth, trying his best not to miss any possible clue. Wu Xiaoheng personally arranged for a meeting with Xie Qingying's father, Xie Dezhao. When Speaker Long received Wu Xiaoheng's call to see Xie Dezhao, his jaw dropped and he couldn't close it for a long time. Xiaoheng, you're really swift and decisive. Speaker Long laughed happily. It's only been a few days and you're already meeting her parents? You haven't even asked Qingying out, have you? Wu Xiaoheng knew that Speaker Long had misunderstood. He didn't explain further and only smiled. Speaker Long, I'm doing this for official business. There are some things that I need Mr. Xie's cooperation with at work. I was wondering if Speaker Long could pass a message for me? He then continued, there's no need to be too formal. We can just meet at a coffee shop near your house. Meet at a coffee shop? You're asking the wrong person, aren't you? Shouldn't you be asking someone's daughter? Why are you asking her father instead? Speaker Long was overjoyed and kept slapping the desk with one hand as he laughed heartily. Hua Xiaoheng smiled on the other end of the phone and quietly waited for Speaker Long to finish laughing before saying, "Do you have a way to contact him? I'll have my personal secretary set a time with him." "Is it really official business?" Speaker Long became serious. "Can you tell me what kind of business it is?" Hua Xiaoheng hesitated and felt that it wasn't time to tell Speaker Long yet. Gu Nianji's matter needed to be kept absolutely confidential. He didn't want to say anything without concrete evidence. "This is a routine investigation." Hua Xiaoheng found an excuse. "The Special Forces has the right to meet with any foreigners who come to our country at any time." Speaker Long knew that something was amiss, but it wasn't time for Hua Xiaoheng to tell him yet, so he didn't rush him. Instead he said, "All right then, I'll pass on the message for you. You can discuss the specific time and place." "Thank you, Speaker Long." Hua Xiaoheng put down the phone and called Yin Shixiang over to help him arrange a meeting with Xie Qingying's father, Xie Dezhao. Yin Shixiang received the order and immediately went to find a way to contact him. Xie Dezhao was a middle-aged man in his late 50s. He had a slender figure and looked very elegant. Although he was old, his skin and figure were well maintained. He was running on the treadmill when he received the call from the Special Forces. "Hello, who's this?" Xie Dezhao frowned and wiped his sweat with the towel around his neck. He got off the treadmill and sat on the sofa in the corner. He drank a glass of saline water to replenish his energy. Yin Shixiang asked politely, "Are you Mr. Xie Dezhao?" "Yes, I am. Who are you?" Xie Dezhao asked again. He was getting impatient. This kind of random call wasn't another telemarketing call, was it? Xie Dezhao was about to hang up when the person on the other end of the line said, "I'm Yin Shixiang, the personal secretary of Major General Hua of the Special Forces. Major General Hua has something to discuss with you. May I know when you're free? Let's make an appointment." Special Forces? Xie Dezhao immediately remembered what Speaker Long had mentioned to him. He hadn't expected a call so soon. Xie Dezhao felt uneasy for a moment but quickly calmed down. Anyone who was interviewed by an organization like this would be nervous. But thinking about it carefully, he hadn't done anything shameful, so there was no need to be nervous about a meeting like this. He nodded. "Okay, I'm free any day. I'll see what Major General Hua has in mind." "That's great." Yin Shixiang was relieved. "We hope to make an appointment as soon as possible. How about this, are you free tonight? Between 7 and 8? So soon?" Xie Dezhao chuckled. He was also curious about what Hua Xiaoheng wanted to say to him. "Yes, our chief is usually very busy and happens to be free tonight." Yin Shixiang chuckled and didn't allow Xie Dezhao to refuse. "Then let's meet at a European cafe near Speaker Long's house. How about that?" "Okay, no problem." Xie Dezhao relaxed instantly. The European cafe was a place he often went for breakfast. He would be more at ease meeting Hua Xiaoheng at a place he was familiar with. After hanging up, Xie Dezhao went to the bathroom to shower. He planned to have an early dinner after that. When Xie Qingying returned home, dinner was already on the table. She asked in surprise, "Dad, why are you eating so early today?" "I have something to do tonight." Xie Dezhao nodded at her with a smile. "Major General Hua from the Special Operations Forces asked me to meet at a cafe. I don't want to be late, so I ate early and waited at the cafe." Xie Qingying froze. "Major General Hua? Is his name Hua Xiaoheng?" "Yes, you know him too?" Xie Dezhao was even more relieved. "So it's someone I know. Then I'm not afraid anymore, ha." Xie Qingying chewed on her chopsticks and thought for a while. She couldn't figure out why Hua Xiaoheng wanted to talk to her father. She also recalled the day Hua Xiaoheng had suddenly stopped her and asked her for her birth mother's name. It felt a little strange. "Dad, can you take me with you? I won't show up and will wait for you next door." Xie Qingying made this request after some thought. It was the second watch. He wanted to remind everyone of the monthly votes and recommendation votes every day at mealtime. Oh, and if... oh. Chapter 385. Xie Dezhao agreed with a smile but reminded her, "Your uncle said that the Special Forces isn't an ordinary department. We just came back from abroad, so we must be careful and not cause trouble. We don't want to make things difficult for your uncle." Actually, his marriage to Speaker Long's cousin wasn't enough for their families to be particularly close. They were both married and had no children, so the bond between husband and wife wasn't very strong. Fortunately, Xie Dezhao didn't need to rely on Speaker Long to gain any benefits, so the two families got along well for the time being. Xie Qingying quickly agreed and hurriedly finished her meal before returning to her room to dress. She didn't want Hua Xiaoheng to know she was there, so she went to the coffee shop early. But what she didn't know was that with the nature of Hua Xiaoheng's work, he must have full control of the coffee shop to be able to meet with her father, Xie Dezhao. It was impossible for him to wait there in advance. Hua Xiaoheng was still on the way in his car when the people monitoring the coffee shop sent Zhao Liangzi a message saying that Xie Dezhao's daughter, Xie Qingying, had gone to the coffee shop early and was having coffee and snacks at a coffee table separated by a screen. Zhao Liangzi forwarded the message to Hua Xiaoheng and called him. Mr. Hua, Miss Xie is also there. Should I ask her to leave? Hua Xiaoheng thought about it and said calmly, no need, just watch her. We don't have anything particularly confidential to ask today, we just want to find out what's going on. It'll probably take less than 5 minutes. Zhao Liangzi took the order and sent it to the people monitoring the coffee shop to watch Xie Qingying and not cause trouble for Hua Xiaoheng. Xie Dezhao walked into the European-style coffee shop near Speaker Long's home on time. Sir, do you have an appointment? An elegantly dressed waitress walked to his side and bowed. Xie Dezhao looked around. The coffee shop was decorated very European style and looked very authentic to someone who had just returned from Europe. Most of the people here were foreigners, Caucasians, blacks, and of course Huaxia people who had just returned from abroad. It seemed that the owner of the coffee shop had also returned from Europe. Xie Dezhao smiled at the waitress and said in a deep voice, "Thank you. I'm here to wait for someone. Are you waiting for Mr. Hua?" The waitress bowed slightly. "Mr. Hua has made a reservation. Please follow me." Xie Dezhao was a little surprised. He had thought they would be chatting in the cafe's lobby and hadn't expected Hua Xiaoheng to book a private room. Xie Qingying watched as her father, Xie Dezhao, followed the waitress into a private room. She couldn't help feeling vexed. Then why did she follow him? I thought I could eavesdrop on them. Xie Qingying listlessly ordered another gram of Spanish seafood fried rice and sat behind the screen to eat. This European-style cafe also served some simple food at night, such as this Spanish seafood fried rice, which was very authentic. It tasted almost exactly the same as the fried rice she had eaten when she traveled to Spain. Hua Xiaoheng had just walked into the cafe when she was gorging herself. He wore a navy blue general's uniform. His shoulders were straight and broad and he was unusually tall. When he walked past a few tall white men, he was not inferior at all. Moreover, his reserved aura added to the sense of mystery. He was like a fascinating book that people could not help but want to get close to him and study him carefully. Xie Qingying looked up from behind the screen to see Hua Xiaoheng's silhouette striding past. Her eyes narrowed and she almost forgot to breathe for a moment. After Hua Xiaoheng walked past, she realized that she was suffocating. She covered her neck with her hand and took a deep breath. Looking at the seafood fried rice in front of her again, it seemed inferior. Hua Xiaoheng pushed open the door to the VIP room in the cafe and saw an elegant man sitting at the coffee table. Judging by his age, he had taken good care of himself. Some of the characteristics of the Xie family could be seen in his eyes. For example, he had a tall, thin nose that was very sculptural. His eyes were slightly sunken and his eyebrows were shaped like swords. He was elegant with a hint of sharpness, but his features weren't as handsome as those of the Xie family. Hua Xiaoheng walked in slowly and stood in front of Xie Dezhao. He nodded slightly and asked, "Are you Mr. Xie Dezhao?" "Yes, I am." "Are you Major General Hua?" Xie Dezhao suddenly felt nervous when he saw Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiaoheng's attitude was very amiable and his eyes were calm and gentle without a trace of aggression. However, Xie Dezhao felt like he couldn't breathe. "Yes, please sit." Hua Xiaoheng motioned for Xie Dezhao to sit down and sat down across from him. The waitress serving the private room came in and asked what they wanted. Hua Xiaoheng ordered a cup of Jamaican South Mountain black coffee, no sugar or milk, and a gram of Black Forest cake. Xie Dezhao ordered a cappuccino with sugar and milk and a gram of tiramisu. The waitress quickly brought the coffee and cake over and Hua Xiaoheng and Xie Dezhao began to chat over the coffee and cake. "I didn't expect to have such authentic cappuccino here. Look at how evenly the milk is whipped." Xie Dezhao first praised the coffee and then praised the tiramisu. Hua Xiaoheng only drank the coffee and didn't touch the Black Forest cake at all. However, he nodded. "This coffee tastes good." The two chatted for a while but never got to the point. It was as if they were competing in patience. Xie Dezhao finally couldn't take it anymore and pushed the coffee cup in his hand away. He frowned and asked Hua Xiaoheng, "Major General Hua, I'm not here to talk about the coffee here, am I?" Hua Xiaoheng smiled slightly and said non-committally, "Since it's a talk, we can talk about anything including coffee." "Alright, I'm done talking. coffee cake, and yes, although this tiramisu is good, it's not as good as my daughter's. My daughter's tiramisu is top-notch. If there's a chance in the future, I'll treat Major General Hua to my daughter's tiramisu. Xie Dezhao beamed at the mention of his daughter. Finally, he was talking about his daughter. Hua Xiaoheng's brows furrowed slightly. He lowered his eyes and said nonchalantly, "Your daughter? Is it Miss Xie Qingying? She gets along well with Speaker Long's wife. How rare. My wife is also a good woman. She treats Qingying like her own daughter. Speaker Long and his wife love me as well as her dog." Xie Dezhao complimented his wife again subtly. His remarried wife was 7 or 8 years younger than him but was already over 40. They weren't old couples. Hua Xiaoheng nodded. Speaker Long's cousin? I've met her once. She's not bad. Yes, when I met her in Europe, she was sketching in the suburbs alone. It was raining heavily and she couldn't make it back, so she stayed at my house for the night. Xie Dezhao's expression softened as he recalled meeting his remarried wife. He wasn't as nervous anymore. Hua Xiaoheng slowly got to the point. Do you still plan on having children? As far as I know, you only have one daughter, Miss Xie Qingying, right? Huh. Children. Xie Dezhao's beautiful memories were suddenly interrupted by Hua Xiaoheng's mention of children. He frowned and looked away to look at the abstract painting on the wall of the single room. He said unhappily, I'm already so old. I'm going to have grandchildren soon. Why would I want children? What if your wife wants one? Hua Xiaoheng clasped his hands together and placed them on the coffee table, slowly breaking down Xie Dezhao's defenses. No way? Xie Dezhao's frown deepened. We've never talked about this before. Maybe it's not necessary. We're not young after all. I'm almost 50 and she's in her early 40s. Can we still have children? If both parties are healthy, it's not impossible to have a woman in her 40s. Hua Xiaoheng smiled and lowered his head to take a sip of coffee. The bitter coffee actually had a sweet aftertaste in the mouth. This was the beauty of coffee. The first sip was bitter, the second was special, the third was sweet, and by the fourth, it was inseparable. Xie Dezhao suddenly clenched his fists. He was agitated. No. We don't want children. Women giving birth is a huge blow to their bodies. I don't ever want to see a woman give birth again. Hua Xiaoheng had learned from his cousin that Xie Dezhao's first wife, Gu Tian, had a health breakdown due to childbirth. She lost all her immune functions and caught a small cold during her confinement period before dying. This was a knot in Xie Dezhao's heart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have remarried more than 20 years after his wife's death. Hua Xiaoheng wasn't a psychiatrist and his goal wasn't to help Xie Dezhao resolve this knot. All he wanted to know was where Gu Tian came from and who was in her family. Mr. Xie, you can't say that. It's normal for most women to give birth. Hua Xiaoheng's fingers began tapping on the coffee table. Xie Dezhao was immersed in his past memories. As if hypnotized, he said dreamily, No, you don't know. Qingying's mother, she had poor health because of childbirth. I knew that. I told her that she didn't need to have children. There were so many people in the Xie family and so many children. It didn't matter if we had one or not. But she wouldn't listen and insisted on having children. Really? Miss Xie's mother had poor health? You knew that when you married her? Hua Xiaoheng pushed the topic forward. Xie Dezhao nodded with a pained expression. I knew, but I loved her, so I married her. She was so happy that she secretly got pregnant and wanted to give me a surprise. She told me not to worry and said that her brother was prepared for it. She would definitely give birth smoothly. Her brother? Your deceased wife's brother? Who is he? What's his name? Hua Xiaoheng also became nervous. Although he didn't show any reaction on the surface, his heart was boiling like lava before a volcano erupted. Her brother? Gu Xiangwen? You don't even know such a famous person? Xie Dezhao looked up at Hua Xiaoheng, his tone sarcastic. What a good brother who dotes on his sister. How could he leave her in the lurch? Hua Xiaoheng clenched his fists tightly. He looked at Xie Dezhao quietly and didn't speak for a long time. Xie Dezhao's hair stood on end under his gaze and he didn't dare to meet his eyes. He looked away awkwardly and muttered, I'm sorry. I was too angry. I shouldn't have said that about him. Hua Xiaoheng snapped out of his daze and interrupted Xie Dezhao. You said Gu Xiangwen is famous? Famous in what way? I don't think I've heard that name before. Xie Dezhao looked at him for a while. Seeing that he didn't seem to be lying, he frowned and thought about it. Then he suddenly understood and smiled. Oh, I was thinking too much. Gu Xiangwen is famous overseas. Even if the people in your country know him, they don't know his name. Then what's his name? Hua Xiaoheng thought to himself. No wonder they couldn't find anything after investigating for so long. Xie Dezhao picked up a pen from the coffee table and wrote Kevin Koo on a napkin. That's his English name. All his published papers use this name. You can find it online. Hua Xiaoheng took the napkin and looked at it without batting an eyelid. He put it aside as if it was of no importance. Oh, he's a scholar? What kind of research does he do? I'm not sure either. I only know that he has many patents that are widely used overseas. Although he keeps a low profile, he's extraordinarily wealthy. He's one of the hidden billionaires. Xie Dezhao said nonchalantly. Of course the Xies wouldn't be interested in other people's money. In fact, if Gu Qianrua hadn't had this rich older brother, she wouldn't have had the chance to meet Xie Dezhao and fall in love with him. Is that so? Do you still keep in touch with him? Hua Xiaoheng asked casually. Our country can consider recruiting such a famous person. Haha. Xie Dezhao's expression suddenly changed. He laughed coldly and curled his lips in disdain. So what if he's famous? I don't want to talk to someone who goes back on his word and doesn't even care about his own sister's life. In fact, I haven't contacted him since my wife passed away. Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. 26 years ago at my wife's funeral, I beat him up and chased him away. I told him never to come back to my house. Xie Dezhao slammed the coffee table angrily, unable to contain his anger. So you haven't contacted him for 26 years? Hua Xiaoheng's heart sank. Then he's never come to see his own niece? There's no point in him coming. I never let him in. He still came a few years after my wife passed away, but I chased him away every time. He stopped coming and only sent birthday gifts to Qingying every year. Xie Dezhao paused, a hint of confusion in his voice. But he hasn't sent birthday gifts to Qingying since 6 years ago. 6 years ago again? What exactly happened 6 years ago? Hua Xiaoheng was basically certain that Gu Xiangwen was Gu Nianji's father, but he never imagined that Xie Dezhao and Gu Xiangwen would have such a deep grudge that they hadn't seen each other for over 20 years. So Xie Dezhao didn't know what Gu Xiangwen had done in the past 20 years, and he certainly didn't know about his niece, Gu Nianji. Gu Nianji hadn't even been born when the two families had a falling out. This was the first installment of 4,000 words. A reminder for the monthly votes and recommendation votes. Today was Monday, so recommendation votes were especially important. 7 p.m. the next installment. Moi. Chapter 386. Hua Xiaoheng held his coffee cup and thought for a while before starting to cross-examine the details to see if Xie Dezhao's words could be corroborated. Gu Xiangwen hasn't sent your daughter a birthday present in the last 6 years. Haven't you been curious about him? Hua Xiaoheng looked at the black coffee in a daze. He had already decided to get Zhao Liangzi to search for Kevin Koo on the internet. Right, what field of research does he do? I'm very curious. Isn't it too much to become an invisible tycoon with just patents? Xie Dezhao was in a much better mood after scolding Gu Xiangwen. He took a sip of his cappuccino and began chatting with Hua Xiaoheng. Major General Hua, you don't understand. Intellectual property is very profitable overseas, and you can earn it without doing anything. Xie Dezhao sighed. Gu Xiangwen is indeed a very capable person. I used to admire him. His parents passed away early and he became the head of the family at a young age. He's also very smart and didn't miss a single thing in school or scholarships. He started his MD plus PhD at the age of 16. Others would take 8 years to finish their degree, but he finished it in 3 years. After that, he worked as a resident doctor for 2 years and became interested in physics. He applied for a PhD in physics from the top-ranked MIT at 20 and graduated in only 3 years. Hua Xiaoheng's fingers twitched. Hua Xiaoheng had met one other person who was talented in reading, and that was Gu Nianji. It seemed like it was indeed hereditary, from a medical doctor to a physics PhD. That's a huge leap. Hua Xiaoheng smiled and looked as if he was listening. Oh, you have to believe me. Although I despise his character and hate him very much, I can't deny his talent. He really is a genius. Xie Dezhao sighed. Do you know about the Y Corporation? Hua Xiaoheng froze again. He was all too familiar with this company. The American Military Aircraft Engine Manufacturing Company? Yes. That's Major General Hua for you. Xie Dezhao complimented him with a smile. This company mainly manufactures turbofan engines for the military, and the most important patent for this engine belongs to Gu Xiangwen. Hua Xiaoheng's hand gripped his coffee cup so tightly that he almost shattered it. He thought of the aircraft engine blueprint in Gu Nianji's backpack. It was unbelievably advanced. It could be said that it was several generations ahead of the most advanced engines of the YY company. This blueprint was actually related to Gu Xiangwen. Before Hua Xiaoheng could recover from the shock of this news, Xie Dezhao continued, Gu Xiangwen studied physics for 3 years. After graduating, he went on to study biology. By the time I met his sister, Gu Tian, their family had already become extremely wealthy through the patents that he had invented during his school days. Really a tycoon? I've never heard of this family. Intentionally or unintentionally, Hua Xiaoheng took out his phone and dialed a few keys to connect to Zhao Liangzi. People who don't know them will never imagine how rich they are. Xie Dezhao was not particularly envious because he was a member of the Xie family and had confidence. Also, they are very low-key and never flaunt their wealth. Besides, the Gu family doesn't have many people, they don't even have any relatives. He and his 2 sisters are not people who like to be in the limelight. Gu Xiangwen has another sister? Hua Xiaoheng raised his voice. There's another one besides Gu Tian? Yes, I think her name is Gu Jing. Xie Dezhao thought about it carefully. The 2 sisters were very close, but unfortunately they didn't live long. I heard that she also passed away a few years after Gu Tian's death. Didn't you say that you haven't contacted Gu Xiangwen in over 20 years? How did you know that his other sister passed away? Hua Xiaoheng acutely grasped this loophole. Xie Dezhao looked at Hua Xiaoheng strangely. I told you he's very famous. He often publishes academic articles in top international journals. He's also very handsome. He's even more handsome than many celebrities, but he's dedicated to academia. He is too untrustworthy and has a bad character. Although I haven't been in contact with him and his family has moved away from Europe, I still often see his articles in journals. That's all. After Gu Tian passed away, he wrote a letter to Gu Tian and asked me to burn it in front of Gu Tian's grave for his other sister to pass away. You read the letter? Of course. Xie Dezhao shrugged. He said that I could read it. What about the letter? I burned it in front of Gu Tian's grave, Xie Dezhao said sternly. Xie Dezhao said righteously, I'm not like Gu Xiangwen who goes back on his word. I'll burn it if I say so. I won't keep it. Hua Xiaoheng looked at Xie Dezhao speechlessly and lowered his head to take a few more sips of coffee before standing up. Mr. Xie, thank you so much for this time. I'll go back and check on Gu Xiangwen. If I can't find anything, I'll have to ask for your help. Xie Dezhao finally understood. So you wanted to talk to me about Gu Xiangwen? Yes. Hua Xiaoheng didn't deny it. He picked up his coat from the hanger and put it on. This is very important to us and I hope you can cooperate. Of course. Xie Dezhao looked at Hua Xiaoheng in confusion. What did this untrustworthy guy do? Did he break the law and get arrested? You see, he stopped sending birthday presents to Qingying 6 years ago. Maybe he got arrested then. Hua Xiaoheng curled his lips, his expression unchanged. I think he's so smart that he wouldn't commit a crime. Okay, my time is up. Hua Xiaoheng pushed open the door and strode out. As soon as he reached the lobby of the cafe, Xie Qingying came up to greet him. She took the initiative to speak to him. Major General Hua, have you seen my father? Hua Xiaoheng looked behind him. Your father is here. Xie Dezhao walked behind Hua Xiaoheng. When he saw Xie Qingying come out of her own accord, he said awkwardly, Major General Hua, Qingying was just worried about me. Hua Xiaoheng nodded. It's okay. This is a private talk and won't be recorded. It's not that strict. If there's anything else, we'll have to ask Mr. Xie to come to our place. Xie Qingying walked to Xie Dezhao's side and took his arm. She asked nervously, Major General Hua, my father has always been law-abiding and has never done anything bad. Xie Dezhao was speechless. Hua Xiaoheng's smile widened. A smile flashed across his handsome face. Miss Xie, your father is fine. I just wanted to ask him for some information. Really? I've been worried all night. Xie Qingying wanted to thank the heavens. It's good that he's fine, it's good that he's fine. Both father and daughter smiled knowingly at Hua Xiaoheng. Miao Yunxiao and Su Piaohong had just pushed open the door to the cafe. Hua Xiaoheng, Xie Qingying, and Xie Dezhao were standing in the aisle. They were too eye-catching. Miao Yunxiao looked at Hua Xiaoheng in surprise. She recognized him as the man who had gone to school to look for Gu Nianji. Then who was the beautiful woman in front of him? They also seemed to be very close. The 3 of them were smiling as they faced each other. Su Piaohong also saw them and her expression darkened. She thought about it and walked over to greet Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiao, I didn't expect to see you here. Hua Xiaoheng turned to look at her and nodded. Monsieur. He then turned to Xie Qingying and Xie Dezhao. Thank you both for your hospitality today. I'll treat you to a meal next time. Although he was anxious to return to the headquarters to verify the information Xie Dezhao had given him, he still maintained a relaxed attitude in front of others. He left the cafe in a relaxed manner. Miao Yunxiao's eyes widened as she watched the scene. She tugged at the corner of Su Piaohong's shirt and pouted at Xie Qingying. Who's that? Su Piaohong had heard about Xie Qingying from General Ji and had seen her photos. Now that she saw her in person, she realized that she was even prettier than in photos. She also looked a bit like Gu Nianji. Su Piaohong whispered, "That's Speaker Long's relative. Let's go say hello." "Oh, is that Speaker Long from the Senate?" Miao Yunxiao exclaimed, "Cousin, you're actually familiar with them." This was way beyond the level of Su Piaohong's family. Miao Yunxiao grew even more nervous and didn't know where to put her hands. "What's wrong with that? General Ji's wife treats me like her own daughter and often takes me out to play. I've also been to Speaker Long's house," Su Piaohong said nonchalantly. She walked over to Xie Qingying and greeted her with a smile. "Miss Xie, what a coincidence." Xie Qingying glanced at Su Piaohong. She looked familiar but didn't remember her name. She could only say politely, "It is. You're here for coffee too? We won't disturb you then." "Were you having coffee with Huashao just now?" Su Piaohong couldn't help but ask. Xie Qingying smiled at her and didn't answer the question. She held Xie Dezhao's arm and said, "Dad, it's getting late. Let's go back." "Yeah, let's go." Xie Dezhao nodded at Su Piaohong and Miao Yunxiao and left with his daughter. Miao Yunxiao and Su Piaohong sat down at the cafe and ordered coffee and muffins. They chatted as they ate. Miao Yunxiao's eyes sparkled. "Who's the man Miss Xie and her father were seeing? Is he also in the military?" Su Piaohong said angrily, "He's the youngest major general in our country. What are you looking at?" "Major general?" Miao Yunxiao gasped. "Doesn't that mean his rank is higher than uncle's? But he doesn't look even 30 years old. That's why he's the youngest major general." Su Piaohong rested her chin on her hands on the coffee table. The expression on her face could only be described as dreamy. "Cousin, you sound so sweet when you talk about him." Miao Yunxiao smiled and scratched her face shyly. "If you like him, then go after him. I'm sure uncle will agree." "More than agree?" Su Piaohong blushed. "General Ji and Madam said they're going to ask the military to matchmake me and Huashao." "Oh, really? That's great." Miao Yunxiao was so happy she almost jumped up. She was happier than finding a boyfriend herself. "Shh, don't make a fuss. We haven't even gotten married yet." Su Piaohong quickly covered her mouth. "Don't be a blabbermouth. If I find out, I won't forgive you." "Okay, I promise I won't say anything now." Miao Yunxiao smiled. "But if you guys get together, you can't stop me from saying anything, right? I can't win against you in an argument, my great lawyer." Su Piaohong pushed her muffin to Miao Yunxiao happily. "But why did that Miss Xie and her father meet Major General Hua? It looks weird, like they're meeting a parent." Miao Yunxiao thought back to the situation earlier and stuck out her tongue playfully. She didn't know why, but she felt a surge of happiness. This was the second installment of 3,000 words. A reminder for the monthly and recommendation votes. Today was Monday, so recommendation votes were very important. Mwah. Oh, and if, oh. Chapter 387. It was just a coincidence, wasn't it? How is it like meeting the parents? Su Piaohong didn't think much of it. If you want to meet the parents, you have to meet them at home. What's with meeting them at a cafe? Is it because their family is shameful? "Cousin, you're more eloquent than a lawyer. I can't win an argument with you." Miao Yunxiao covered her mouth and giggled. "You're right, it wouldn't be sincere even if they met the parents like this." "That's right, my dad always says that you can't judge a person by their appearance, you have to see their true nature." Su Piaohong giggled as she and Miao Yunxiao sat by the window in the cafe. Through the window they could see the situation outside. Huashao, Xie Dezhao and Xie Qingying hadn't left yet. They stood on the tree-lined path in front of the cafe. The streetlights shone through the gaps between the branches and shone on the faces of the people under the trees. The handsome man and beautiful woman complemented each other like a beautiful oil painting. Su Piaohong was silent as she looked down at the menu for food. Miao Yunxiao secretly took out her phone and took a picture of the warm and harmonious scene under the tree. Huashao lowered his gaze and looked at Xie Qingying, who was looking up at him. Xie Dezhao chuckled and looked happy to see it happen. Even though it was dark under the streetlights, Xie Qingying's fair cheeks were flushed red. Her eyes were alarmingly bright. Huashao said goodbye to the Xies as his car drove over. He nodded at them and entered his car, saying to Fan Jian, "Let's go." His car quickly left the European-style cafe and headed towards the headquarters of the Special Operations Forces. Hua Xiaoheng texted Zhao Liangzi as soon as he got in the car, asking him to look up someone called Kevin Ku online. Zhao Liangzi saw the message and quickly called him. "Mr. Hua, is it the genius scientist Xie Dezhao told you about?" "Yes, that's him. His Chinese name is Gu Xiangwen, English name is Kevin Ku." Hua Xiaoheng sent the message without batting an eyelid. "Hurry up." Zhao Liangzi immediately logged onto the internet and started using his own search engine to search for Kevin Ku. By the time Hua Xiaoheng returned to the Special Operations Forces headquarters base, Zhao Liangzi had already placed the search results on his desk. "Hua Xiao, is Gu Xiangwen really Kevin Ku? Is this information reliable?" Zhao Liangzi followed Hua Xiaoheng excitedly into the office. *CK. This news is too explosive. Is he very famous? Hua Xiaoheng took off his coat and hung it on the wall hanger in the office. He turned to look at Zhao Liangzi, who was flushed with excitement. He shook his head. "Even if he is, you don't have to be so excited, right? Hua Xiao, you can't not be excited." Zhao Liangzi took a few steps closer and whispered urgently, "Hua Xiao, have you forgotten about the Special Operations Forces Plan B?" Hua Xiaoheng froze, a complicated look flashing across his eyes. However, he quickly composed himself and walked to the desk to sit down. He picked up the information Zhao Liangzi had found and began reading. He did not look at the details and only skimmed through the main points Zhao Liangzi had listed. As he read, he nodded and said, "So it's him. This person is indeed very famous, but he didn't sign his name as Kevin Ku. It was KXW? Yes, it doesn't seem like a name. It's more like a code name." Zhao Liangzi pointed to the information he had found and explained to Hua Xiaoheng, "This KXW is considered the most famous and mysterious person in foreign military history. His patents not only include the core technology for the most advanced military aircraft engines, but also many patents for semiconductors and superconductors. In the field of materials science, he also has several patents that are widely used today." When he saw the list of patents under the name KXW, even someone as knowledgeable as Hua Xiaoheng was deeply shocked. Not to mention the military technologies, there were also some widely used civilian technologies. For example, the core technology for the Apple phone chip was also KXW's patent. This meant that every Apple phone sold in the world had to be paid to the owner of KXW's patent. Even if Gu Xiangwen only paid 1 yuan per Apple phone, based on the astronomical number of Apple phones sold every year, it was already very humble to say that Gu Xiangwen was an invisible tycoon. Our department used to think that this name was a code name for a team member and that their research results were collective. But if what Xie Dezhao said is true, then our intelligence work will have to be rewritten. That was why Zhao Liangzi was so excited. Hua Xiaoheng nodded thoughtfully. KXW, I know this code name. Our Plan B code name is him. So he was so close to them yet so far away, but Mr. Hua? Zhao Liangzi knocked his head in confusion. "I looked up all the public and private information about Gu Xiangwen on the internet. I found that other than these publicly published academic papers and patent applications, there was almost no other information." "What do you mean you couldn't find anything?" Hua Xiaoheng put down the pile of materials. "What do you mean? For example, I wanted to look up his resume, photos and even his life, but there was very little information." Zhao Liangzi grinned, revealing his pearly white teeth. "Then I remembered something." "Speak." Gu Xiangwen almost disappeared after he became famous, and all information was erased. But what about before he became famous? What about when he was studying? Zhao Liangzi pointed to the papers at the bottom of the stack of materials. "In order to find his student records, I had no choice but to use some tricks to get into MIT's intranet." Hua Xiaoheng replied calmly, "I don't know what you're talking about, but just get me the information." "Roger, Chief." Zhao Liangzi was secretly happy. He knew that Hua Xiaoheng was not going to pursue the matter. There was an unwritten rule in the Special Operations Forces called, "Don't ask, I don't tell," which meant that everyone had a tacit understanding of each other. You can see the timeline of Gu Xiangwen's studies from here. It's very clear. Zhao Liangzi placed a chart in front of Hua Xiaoheng and pointed it out. "Look at this timeline. All the way until the year Gu Tian passed away, there was a loud bang and all the clues were cut off. We couldn't find out where he was after that, except for a few years when he published an important thesis under the name KXW, Hua Xiaoheng looked at the timeline Zhao Liangzi had drawn and nodded. Very interesting. Little Zhe, you did very well. Thank you for the compliment, Chief. Zhao Liangzi was so excited that his face turned purple. What else do you want to find? Just tell me. Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. Ah, Hua Xiao, you don't say. After looking at Gu Xiangwen's resume and thinking about our Nianji, he's the only one worthy of being her father. No one else is. Zhao Liangzi knew that Gu Xiangwen was Gu Nianji's biological father. Now that he knew that Gu Xiangwen was such a big shot in the academic world, he was so excited that he rubbed his hands together. He wanted nothing more than to bring Gu Xiangwen to the imperial capital immediately to reunite with Gu Nianji and collaborate with them. Hua Xiaoheng smiled faintly. You're oversimplifying things. Isn't that so? Although we can't directly find his address now, we have so many clues. It's only a matter of time before we find his address. Zhao Liangzi rubbed his palms together. Do you want me to try again? You can try, but I don't think there will be any results. Hua Xiaoheng put the stack of search materials aside and said with a dark expression, Gu Xiangwen chose to live in seclusion 26 years ago. How can you find him so easily? Also, he's Nianji's biological father, but why has there been no news of him for the past 6 years? Doesn't he know that his daughter is missing? These words were like a bucket of cold water splashed over Zhao Liangzi's head. He was like a frosted eggplant. You mean that something might have happened to him? Zhao Liangzi thought about it for a moment. The worst possibility made his expression change. Hua Xiaoheng closed the file and closed his eyes. I don't know. Everything is unknown now. It's still too early to make a conclusion. But it's not completely unknown. Zhao Liangzi waved his arm. At least we have a direction and a goal. It's not like before where we fumbled in the dark for 6 years. That's true. Hua Xiaoheng took a sip of water and pursed his lips. Okay, we have some leads on this matter. You don't have to worry too much. Just investigate it step by step. If we still can't find anything, we'll look for Xie Dezhao. I don't believe he can't get in touch with Gu Xiangwen. Roger, Chief. Zhao Liangzi answered loudly and saluted. He was more disciplined than usual. Hua Xiaoheng glanced at him. Speak. What's the matter? You must have a favor to ask. Mr. Hua, how can you say that? You're my superior. Can't I be polite to you? Zhao Liangzi chuckled. But you're right. I do have a favor to ask. Okay, speak. Tomorrow is Saturday and also Valentine's Day. Zhao Liangzi blushed again as he spoke. I want to apply for leave tomorrow and turn off my phone 24 hours a day. Is that okay? Due to the nature of their work, they were always on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Zhao Liangzi especially maintained the entire central control system of the Special Operations Forces. Even when he went home for the new year, his special phone was still on call all day, ready to handle emergencies. His request this time meant that the special phone had to be turned off as well. Hua Xiaoheng glanced at him and didn't pursue the matter. He only nodded. Okay, you don't have to turn it on for 24 hours tomorrow. I'll take over the central control system. Thank you, Chief. Zhao Liangzi was so happy he almost jumped up. Then I'll have to trouble you tomorrow. Go. Hua Xiaoheng waved his hand. Close the door when you leave. Zhao Liangzi responded loudly and ran out, closing Hua Xiaoheng's office door on his way out. Hua Xiaoheng finally lowered his head and carefully studied Zhao Liangzi's search results again. He found some suspicious points and logged into the dark web again. On Friday night, the B University Faculty of Law female graduate students' dormitory was filled with a relaxed and cheerful atmosphere. It was as if pink bubbles were popping up everywhere. The girls gathered in groups of 2s and 3s to prepare for Valentine's Day tomorrow. This was the season for everyone to secretly compare themselves. Whose boyfriend was tall, handsome, rich, and powerful. They couldn't wait to make a list of their rankings and post them in the hallways for everyone to admire. If someone's boyfriend was tall, handsome, rich, and powerful, they would be crowned a god. That was how male idols came to be. Gu Nianji and Ma Qiqi each held a box of popcorn and sat cross-legged on either side of the sofa to watch an old movie in the living room. They could practically recite the lines of the movie and it echoed in the living room. It was just background music, so neither of them actually listened to it. They were both a bit absent-minded. After a while, Gu Nianji finished her popcorn and looked at the remaining stock. She stood up and said to Ma Qiqi, "There's nothing left to eat. Do you want to go out and buy something?" "Yes, right away." Ma Qiqi, who had been listless all night, immediately perked up. "Where are we going to buy something?" "The campus mall." "Where else?" Gu Nianji put on a down jacket and walked out of the room with Ma Chichi to the hallway. The dorm room diagonally across from them was open and waves of laughter came from inside. Miao Yunxiao's voice was exceptionally crisp and sweet. Don't fight over it. This is my future cousin-in-law. Don't ruin it. He's really your cousin-in-law? But why is he with another woman? I said he's my future cousin-in-law, not now. He's the youngest major general in our country and my uncle is also the deputy chief of staff. He's a good match for my cousin and the military has already agreed to introduce them. Miao Yunxiao said proudly. Her tone was full of pride and honor. Gu Nianji's expression changed as she stopped in front of Miao Yunxiao's dorm room. Miao Yunxiao saw Gu Nianji's figure at the door and felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. She waved her phone at her roommates. Look, isn't he really handsome? I say, why do you think he's a Prince Charming? All those people together can't even compare to Major General Hua's finger. Gu Nianji had only suspected at first, but now she was completely sure that Miao Yunxiao was talking about Hua Xiaoheng. She had spent the entire week in torment. Hua Xiaoheng stood her up last weekend and she didn't call to ask about it. Instead she went back to school alone. In the entire week, Hua Xiaoheng had only called her once, and he had hung up after saying a few hurried words, which made her feel very regretful. Now it was Friday night and Hua Xiaoheng still hadn't called her or told her where he was staying for the weekend. Her emotions were like a volcano waiting to erupt. This was the first installment of 4,000 words. Reminders for the monthly votes and recommendation votes. 7 p.m. the next installment. Mwah. Oh, and if, oh. Chapter 388. He's so handsome. Is it really okay to look at a girl like that under the streetlights? Yunxiao, didn't you say he's your future cousin-in-law? Then who's this girl? She looks quite old. Go away. How is she old? This is maturity. Maturity? Do you understand? All goddesses are like that. Miao Yunxiao's dorm was very lively. Other than her and her roommates, there were girls from other dorms as well. Everyone laughed and joked around, eager to see Miao Yunxiao's phone. Miao Yunxiao raised her arm high. A photo was clearly displayed on the iPhone in her hand. Under the warm yellow streetlights, a man and a woman looked at each other and smiled silently. The man was tall and mature. Just the side profile of his handsome face was enough to steal everyone's breath away. The woman was tall and beautiful, looking up with a smile. An older man stood beside her with his hands in his trouser pockets, watching the scene with a wide smile. It was like a warm family portrait. Gu Nianji felt her eyes water and lips dry. She stood quietly at the door and stared at the phone in Miao Yunxiao's hand. Miao Yunxiao turned to look at her and smiled. Oh? Classmate Gu, why are you staring at me? Gu Nianji clenched her fists and told herself not to argue with Miao Yunxiao and to leave. However, her legs seemed to have a mind of their own and refused to leave. Ma Chichi didn't know what was going on and popped her head out of curiosity from behind Gu Nianji. What's wrong? What are you looking at? I'm looking at a photo of my future cousin-in-law. Miao Yunxiao nodded at Ma Chichi with a smile, then sneered at Gu Nianji. Are you stupid? The organization has never considered you and you're still daydreaming. Gu Nianji glared at Miao Yunxiao. Her eyes were bone-chilling and made Miao Yunxiao shiver. She shrank her neck and muttered, I didn't say anything wrong. My cousin told me herself that the military wanted to introduce her to Major General Hua. General Ji is the matchmaker. Do you think you even have the slightest chance? Gu Nianji was confused. She didn't seem to understand what Miao Yunxiao was saying. Miao Yunxiao continued, Actually, people should be content with what they have and know their place. Don't ask for things that don't belong to you. Even if he could get his hands on it for a while, he was just toying with him. Those men weren't stupid. If they wanted to get married, they would have to find a woman of equal status. Study hard, find a good job after graduation, and then find a good husband among your colleagues. That's better than anything else. Gu Nianji finally understood what she meant and felt her blood rush to her head. Her head buzzed as she leapt towards Miao Yunxiao. What are you doing? Miao Yunxiao jumped back in fright. Ma Chichi was also shocked. She quickly hugged Gu Nianji from behind and urged, Nianji, Nianji, ignore her. Her mouth is dirty, so if we ignore her, we'll dirty our hands. Miao Yunxiao was furious at Ma Chichi's words. She dodged to the side and yelled at Ma Chichi, Chichi, don't be fooled by her. Why do you think she threw me out? It was because I saw through her adultery. Shut up. Gu Nianji's expression changed as she flipped and twisted her right hand to use the little grappling technique Hua Xiaoheng had taught her. She broke free from Ma Qiqi's grasp and slid to Miao Yunxiao's side. She placed her left hand on Miao Yunxiao's right shoulder. Miao Yunxiao screamed as her right arm holding the phone drooped and the phone fell to the ground. Gu Nianji quickly reached out with her right leg and kicked the falling phone up. She then reached out with her left hand and caught Miao Yunxiao's phone firmly in her hand. Everyone in the room was stunned by Gu Nianji's move and didn't recover for a long time. "Oh, Gu Nianji, you learned Kung Fu?" Miao Yunxiao's roommate asked in surprise. "That kick was so beautiful." Gu Nianji glanced at her before looking down at the photo on the phone. It was indeed Huo Xiaoheng. There was also a woman she didn't know but looked very familiar. She felt like she had seen her somewhere before. She couldn't help frowning as she tried to recall if she had seen this woman before. Otherwise, why did she look so familiar? Just as she was lost in thought, Ma Qiqi came over and asked carefully, "Nianji? Nianji? Are you okay?" Gu Nianji didn't respond and continued to stare at the photo on the phone. Ma Qiqi followed her line of sight and saw the photo. She looked at it curiously for a while before saying, "This man is really handsome. Why does this woman look so familiar?" Her eyes darted around and finally landed on Gu Nianji's face. From her angle, Gu Nianji was exactly the same as the woman in the photo. "Ah, Nianji, don't you think the woman in the photo looks a bit like you?" Ma Qiqi shouted and patted Gu Nianji's shoulder. The students in the room immediately rushed over. Let me see. Let me see. They really look alike." "They don't really look alike? Nianji is younger and more youthful. This woman looks very mature." The students spoke one after another and the discussion was very lively. Miao Yunxiao finally realized that the woman in the photo looked a lot like Gu Nianji. She suppressed the soreness in her chest and rubbed her shoulder. "It's right that they look alike. Someone is just a substitute. Otherwise, why would Major General Hua lower himself to such a high position?" She opened her hand at Gu Nianji. "Give me back my phone." Gu Nianji slowly reached out and placed Miao Yunxiao's phone back in her hand. The phone seemed to weigh 1,000 kilograms. It was so heavy that it almost broke her arm. "Do you understand now? It's not too late to mend the fence after the sheep is lost." Miao Yunxiao put the phone away and smiled at Gu Nianji. "I won't be harsh since you're so upset. We're all adults and law students, so of course we know what's right and wrong." Gu Nianji tried her best to keep her eyes open and not let the bitterness in her eyes turn into tears. "Miao Yunxiao, can you speak with a straight face? Don't be so sarcastic." Gu Nianji replied sternly, "You said it yourself, we're all adults and law students. How can you make groundless accusations like this? You must be imagining a melodramatic drama after seeing this photo, right? It's a shame you didn't become a screenwriter with this kind of talent." Miao Yunxiao didn't expect Gu Nianji to still be in the mood to bicker with her after seeing her sweetheart in another man's arms. "Don't be so stubborn, your nose is almost red. Cry if you want to, we're all classmates and won't laugh at you." Miao Yunxiao pouted and returned to her room. "Fine, I'll stop messing around with you guys. I have a date tomorrow, so I'm going to bed early today." Miao Yunxiao slammed the door shut with a loud bang. Everyone looked at each other and Miao Yunxiao's roommate said awkwardly, Fine, that's all. Let's go back and get some rest and a beauty sleep. We still have dates tomorrow." Ma Qiqi took Gu Nianji's hand as they left Miao Yunxiao's room. She noticed that Gu Nianji's hand was cold and sweaty. It was all cold sweat. "Nianji, are you okay?" Ma Qiqi asked with concern. "How about we go back? I'll heat up a glass of milk for you." Gu Nianji's mind was filled with the photo she saw earlier. Why did Huo Xiaoheng look at that woman like that? Why did that woman look so much like her? They looked so harmonious and loving when they stood together. Gu Nianji felt like a huge rock was pressing down on her chest and suffocating her. "No, Qiqi, I can't stay with you today." Gu Nianji gripped her hand tightly and murmured, I want to go home. I won't come back today." She quickly walked back to her room to pack her things and prepare to go back to the Special Ops headquarters to ask Huo Xiaoheng about it. She wanted to ask him about the photo as well as what Miao Yunxiao had said about the military introducing Huo Xiaoheng to cousin Miao Yunxiao. She had questions in her heart for a long time. Although the days since she confessed to him had been sweet, there was also a growing shadow looming over her head. Why didn't Huo Xiaoheng reveal their relationship? Was there an insurmountable barrier between them? If there was, then he should let her go. As Gu Nianji packed her things, she gritted her teeth and told herself not to cry, not to throw a tantrum, and to be reasonable. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and hurriedly put her laptop and belongings into her backpack. She put on a knee-length down jacket and left the room. Ma Qiqi chased after her and followed her down the elevator. She looked at her worriedly and asked, Nianji, are you okay? Gu Nianji held her hand. I'm fine, but there are some things I want to ask. If it's impossible, then at least let me give up. With that, she plunged into the night. Ma Qiqi didn't expect Gu Nianji to really have a relationship with the Major General Hua in the photo. She crossed her arms and stood in front of the dormitory building, extremely worried. Gu Nianji carried her backpack and walked quickly through the forest on campus. The early spring nights in the imperial capital were still very cold, and the cold wind cut her face like knives. Gu Nianji wrapped her entire face with a scarf, revealing only her eyes. Although the weather was cold, her entire body was hot, and her eyes were as bright as the stars in the sky. When she arrived at the campus gate, she called a taxi company to rent a car to the Special Operations Forces headquarters. However, when the companies heard where she was going, they didn't want to send a car. Gu Nianji almost threatened to sue them if they didn't want to give her a ride. After arguing for a while, Gu Nianji noticed her phone was ringing again. Looking closely, she saw it was Hua Xiaoheng. Nianji? Are you asleep? Hua Xiaoheng's voice came from the phone. In the quiet night, it was exceptionally touching. The tears Gu Nianji had held back all night finally burst out. She clutched her down jacket in the cold wind and choked out, No, classmate, don't stand at the school gate to make a call. A security guard had been watching her for a long time and walked over to let her leave. You can either go in or go out. What are you doing blocking the entrance? Hua Xiaoheng heard the security guard's loud voice over the phone and froze. Nianji? Where are you? Gu Nianji was forced to leave the school gate. She walked to the wall and stood still. She gritted her teeth and didn't answer. She only asked, Hua Xiao, I have something to ask you. This was the second watch. A reminder for the monthly and recommendation votes. Mwax. Chapter 389. Gu Nianji's choked voice echoed in the night sky, carrying the brittleness of fine bone porcelain. It sent chills down Hua Xiaoheng's spine. The coldness seemed to travel through the radio to Hua Xiaoheng's ears. His heart skipped a beat as he moved the mouse to open the satellite tracking system to find Gu Nianji. On the large screen in front of him, Gu Nianji stood alone by the wall next to the south gate of B University. She wore a large down jacket that reached her knees and carried a backpack. Half of her face was hidden in a scarf, and she held her phone to her ear with one hand. The back of her hand was red from the cold. Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. Couldn't she use a headset even if she was calling outside? That way her hands wouldn't freeze. What a child, she didn't care when she was angry. Hua Xiaoheng stared at Gu Nianji on the screen and listened to her sobbing. After a while he asked, Where are you? Don't worry about where I am. I have something to ask you. Gu Nianji sniffed, her voice was already tearful. She looked like she was in the right. Hua Xiaoheng leaned back in his chair and said calmly, Fine, but you have to go back to the dorm now to calm down. I won't talk to you like this. Gu Nianji was speechless. She looked around nervously but didn't see Hua Xiaoheng anywhere nearby. She looked up at the night sky and pulled up the hood of her down jacket to cover her entire face. She felt that as long as she covered her head, Hua Xiaoheng wouldn't be able to see her from the satellite images. Hua Xiaoheng saw Gu Nianji's subconscious behavior and couldn't help smiling. He continued, Go back to the dorm first. Gu Nianji pouted unhappily, Why can't I say it now? Because you're angry right now and can't be reasoned with. Hua Xiaoheng replied calmly and urged her again, Hurry up and go back. Listen to me. Gu Nianji was silent for a moment before realizing that Hua Xiaoheng already knew where she was. So if I don't go back to the dorm, you're going to leave me hanging? She tried to reason with Hua Xiaoheng. You can try. Hua Xiaoheng's tone was calm but Gu Nianji could hear a hint of threat in it. Clutching her phone, she leaned against the wall of B University's south gate and struggled internally. One moment she felt that she couldn't show weakness. Hua Xiaoheng was always crushing her like this. She had no chance of winning in front of him. One moment she wondered why two people who loved each other had to be the victor. They weren't enemies. On second thought, if she was the one who gave in every time, was Hua Xiaoheng really not in the wrong? Gu Nianji silently thought that she wasn't being unreasonable. She knew what she was most nervous about this time. The photo was secondary. The main reason was that Miao Yunxiao said the organization was matchmaking. This was the true source of her fear and unease. Gu Nianji knew that to Hua Xiaoheng, the importance of the organization was placed alongside the national interest. Gu Nianji admitted that she had never been able to compete with Hua Xiaoheng for the country and the organization in his heart. She had never thought of competing either. It was fine as long as the two could coexist peacefully. But now that the other side was involved, she couldn't be sure which side Hua Xiaoheng would side with. Perhaps Hua Xiaoheng wouldn't fall in love with someone else, but what if there was a higher level of interest for him to compromise? Gripping her phone tightly, Gu Nianji was silent for a while before mustering up her courage to say, "No, I'm not going back. I want to see you right now, right now." Hua Xiaoheng looked at what he was doing. The entire department had spent a month creating a program that was currently running. If it stopped or was discovered by hackers, the consequences would be unthinkable. He had just taken the lead in organizing the Special Operations Forces IT team and had already fended off several attacks from IP addresses across the ocean. On the battlefield where there was no smoke, war was always present. He couldn't leave now, nor did he want to send a car to pick up Gu Nianji. Seeing Gu Nianji look like she had been wronged, Hua Xiaoheng's heart ached for her, but he also felt that he couldn't let her bad habits go. If she ran around without a word, what would happen to her in the future? He had to teach her a lesson. Perhaps it was the habit of being in a superior position, or perhaps it was because Gu Nianji had grown up with him, but he felt that in addition to having romantic feelings for her, he also had the responsibility to raise her. Hua Xiaoheng pursed his lips and leaned forward slightly to look at Gu Nianji, who was standing alone in the corner with her head down. He said in an unquestionable tone, "Go back to the dorm first. We'll talk there." Gu Nianji closed her eyes and sounded extremely wronged. "Okay, I'll go back to the dorm, but you have to answer my question." "Go back first. You know that I never negotiate with people." Hua Xiaoheng's voice was even calmer. Gu Nianji was more and more uncertain about her position in Hua Xiaoheng's heart. She bit her lips so hard that a few deep teeth marks appeared. She whispered weakly, "What if I don't go back to the dorm?" She really did. Hua Xiaoheng rubbed his temples with a headache. Before he could make a decision, the central control system's alarm sounded again. Another wave of IP attacks had appeared. Hua Xiaoheng put on his headset and said to Gu Nianji, "Go back to the dorm quickly. I'll call your dorm number when I'm done here. I'll hang up now." After hanging up, Gu Nianji pulled down the scarf covering her face and looked up at the night sky in a daze. She had just heard the alarm on Hua Xiaoheng's side. This time what else could she say? It seemed like she had found the most inappropriate time to make a fuss. Hua Xiaoheng immediately took the lead and led the IT team of the Special Operations Forces to organize a new defense. Not only did they have to intercept the foreign hacker groups that were trying to find a loophole in the Huaxia Empire's network, but they also had to take the initiative to launch an attack. They had to follow the enemy's attack route and counterattack the enemy's mainframe computer. They had to secretly plant a Trojan horse and hide in the enemy's computer. However, he also knew that this kind of Trojan horse wouldn't survive for long in the enemy system. It would soon be discovered and erased. But in their line of work, as long as there was a loophole, they could obtain a lot of important information. So it didn't matter even if it was erased in the future. Because they had already achieved their goal. Number 1. The package has arrived. The package has arrived. Number 3. Turn off the IP port and immediately close the door to beat the dogs. Move to the position of number A and guard against the 5 open ports. Number B, close the net and erase the enemy's hard drive. Give them a warning. Hua Xiaoheng methodically commanded his team to maneuver around the invisible network and focus on intercepting, erasing, and counterattacking the enemy's malicious programs. Gu Nianji carried her backpack and stood outside the south gate of B University for a while. She wanted to return to the dorm but couldn't bring herself to do it. She lowered her head and rubbed the dirt with the tip of her leather boots against the corner of the wall. She wondered what she should do. The night wind grew colder, and her heated mind gradually calmed down. But she didn't feel relieved. She couldn't even think about it in detail. Just thinking about it made her feel like exploding again. The street outside the south gate of B University was very quiet at night. Only the occasional car headlight pierced the night sky. Gu Nianji hung her head and finally shuffled back to the dorm. When she arrived downstairs, Gu Nianji saw a young couple standing under a tree by the side of the building getting closer and closer. Finally they hugged and kissed. Gu Nianji couldn't be bothered to look at them and turned to leave. At this moment, a person suddenly ran past her and rushed to the young couple who were kissing under the tree. He pulled the man away and slapped him. "Mo Renfong, you actually cheated on me? I must have been blind to be with a B***tis like you." Gu Nianji's eyes widened as she watched her roommate Ma Chichi angrily point at the man of the young couple and scold him. "Listen up. I dumped you." She then turned to the woman who was cowering in the corner. "You knew he had a girlfriend and yet you were with him. How shameless." The woman laughed coldly and said to Ma Chichi, "He dumped you, so don't try to save yourself." "What do you mean you dumped him? He was the one who dumped you." Ma Chichi lost her mind and raised her hand to hit the woman again. The man immediately grabbed Ma Chichi's hand and shouted, "Are you done yet? I'll admit that you hit me, but don't hit her." He's actually protecting her. Gu Nianji's eyes reddened as she strode over and grabbed Ma Chichi's hand to comfort her. "Chichi, don't stoop to her level." Then she turned to the man. "It be *tch like you will definitely have bad luck in everything in the future. You'll fail exams, not get a degree, not get a job, and live off a woman for the rest of your life. You'll never get what you want." The man's face turned purple from Gu Nianji's words and he retorted, "Who are you? What right do you have to curse me like that?" "I'm cursing you. You're cheating on me, so everyone will curse you." Gu Nianji laughed coldly and pulled Ma Chichi along. "Let's go. Ignore them." Ma Chichi cried as Gu Nianji pulled her into the elevator. She covered her face and said, "Nianji, am I a failure?" Gu Nianji didn't know what happened and only held her hand in silence. "I was actually the last to find out my boyfriend was cheating on me. I was just in my room preparing a Valentine's Day surprise for him when someone sent me a message and told me to go downstairs." Tears leaked out between her fingers and wet the back of her hand. Gu Nianji sighed and said, "Don't think about it. We'll talk about it when we get back." She thought about it and said, "I'm hungry." "Are you hungry? Let's order some good takeout?" Ma Chichi nodded and choked out, "I want to eat duck tongue and crab pancakes. I also want French fries, fried chicken, and beer. I'll eat whatever's fat." Gu Nianji was amused by her, and her depressed mood finally eased a little. She picked up her phone and found a takeout place with good reviews. She began ordering. "Okay, you guys send it to our dorm. I'll come downstairs to get it." Gu Nianji left her name and address and went back to her room with Ma Chichi. They went back to their own rooms to clean up and shower. When they came out, the takeout had just arrived. Gu Nianji and Ma Chichi sat on opposite sides of the dining table and gorged themselves on fried chicken and beer. Although it was junk food, it naturally had fat and calories that made people feel good. Ma Chichi ate a crab pancake as she said to Gu Nianji, "I want to turn my grief and anger into appetite. I'll stop eating until I can't eat any more tonight." Gu Nianji didn't stop her and nodded. "Let's eat together. Who's afraid of who's fat?" They drank 3 or 4 bottles of beer. They didn't have a high tolerance for alcohol, but they could still get drunk from beer. When Gu Nianji was slightly tipsy, Hua Xiaoheng finally called again. "This is the first watch. Remind my friends for their monthly votes and recommendation votes. It's the big chapter at 7 p.m. on the second watch. My friends must be on time to see it." Save the form. Save the form. Save the form. Important things must be repeated 3 times. Oh, and if, oh. Chapter 390. Gu Nianji and Ma Chichi didn't notice at first when the landline in the dorm rang. Everyone had a phone these days and many people had more than one. Who would call a landline? It was as if they didn't hear the ringtone at all. Gu Nianji's phone rang as well. She froze when she heard Hua Xiaoheng's unique ringtone. She reached out to unlock it and pressed the side of her face against the cold phone. She said drunkenly, "Hello." Hua Xiaoheng froze. "You're drinking? Where are you?" Gu Nianji laughed and stood up dizzily with the phone. She said to Ma Chichi, "I'm going to take a call. You eat first." Ma Chichi waved her hand and slurred, Go. It's best if I go alone. I'm telling you, if you come back late, I'm going to lose everything." Fine. Lose everything if you can." Gu Nianji mimicked Ma Chichi's words and floated to her own room. She entered the room and closed the door. Leaning against the door, she spoke to Hua Xiaoheng. "Hua Xiao, you finally have time to call me?" Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. She seemed to be quite drunk. "Where are you right now?" Hua Xiaoheng asked in a low voice as he leaned back in his chair. His back was a bit sore, so he put an arm behind his head and massaged his shoulder as he spoke to Gu Nianji with his eyes closed. "Aren't you very resourceful? Don't you have a satellite detection system? How can you not know where I am?" Gu Nianji held the phone to her ear. Alcohol gave her courage and she also began to talk back to Hua Xiaoheng. This was unimaginable when she was sober. Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. He spun around in his chair before standing up and walking out of the central control room's underground engine room. He walked up the stairs to the ground floor and pushed open the 2 bulletproof glass doors to walk to the open space in front of the Special Operations Forces office building. It was a spacious square surrounded by bare grass. There were no trees, only large lawns and groups of flower beds. Of course, it was still early spring, so the grass hadn't appeared yet, and the flowers were nowhere to be seen. There were some metal benches at the edge of the square. Wu Xiaoheng walked over to one and sat down. He lit a cigarette and took a deep drag. Gu Nianji waited for a long time, but Wu Xiaoheng didn't say anything. She became nervous and her back was covered in sweat. She immediately sobered up. She used her hand to support herself against the door and stood up. Her feet fluttered towards the sofa by the wall. When he reached the sofa, his legs turned to jelly and he slumped onto the sofa. He reached out to grab his little panda pillow and hugged it in his arms, gritting his teeth and refusing to speak. She was afraid that the moment she opened her mouth, she would surrender again. Wu Xiaoheng took a few deep drags of his cigarette before he snapped out of the world of data and words on the internet. "Nianji," he said slowly, "where are you now?" Again he wouldn't give up until Gu Nianji answered. Gu Nianji immediately knelt down. She didn't have Wu Xiaoheng's tested nerves and indomitable willpower. She was just an ordinary girl. Was she stupid to compete with the former coach of the Special Forces in terms of endurance and endurance? "I'm in the dormitory," Gu Nianji murmured. She stared blankly at the geometrically patterned carpet on the floor. Wu Xiaoheng blew out a ring of smoke and said slowly, "Okay, that's good." He paused then smiled. "Why are you so grumpy?" "You spoil me," Gu Nianji said sullenly. "You spoil me like this and now you say I have a bad temper. I'm not happy." Wu Xiaoheng was speechless. Fine, it was all his fault. Wu Xiaoheng flicked the ash off his cigarette and stopped smoking. He put on his headset and said to Gu Nianji, "Then I won't spoil you anymore." "No, you have to continue spoiling me." Gu Nianji sat up straight and hugged the little panda pillow even tighter. She then emphasized, "I can't not spoil you. I'm used to it." Wu Xiaoheng laughed. "Okay, then be good and I'll continue spoiling you." "I'll spoil you only if you're good. I'm not really spoiling you." Gu Nianji protested. "Also, you were so mean to me today." Wu Xiaoheng continued to smile silently. After a while, he threw the cigarette into the trash can near the bench and stretched his long legs lazily against the metal bench. He said quietly, "You're not angry anymore?" Gu Nianji rubbed her chest and found that the pent-up anger had dissipated. She was indeed not angry anymore, but the problem still remained. Gu Nianji finally understood the problem clearly. Wu Xiaoheng couldn't fool her. "Wu Xiao, I'm not angry anymore. Can I ask you a question now?" Gu Nianji's voice calmed down. The faint hint of tears in her voice was gone. Wu Xiaoheng sighed in relief and felt a trace of guilt. His attitude became even more gentle. "Okay, ask away. It's like this." Gu Nianji covered her phone with one hand and twisted the little fringe on the panda pillow with the other. She hesitated on how to speak. "Ask me anything." "Why are you hesitating when you're talking to me?" Wu Xiaoheng hugged the back of his neck and looked up at the starry sky. The stars were especially bright at night. They shimmered like diamonds on fine black velvet. Although the weather was cold, he needed the cold air to clear his head. Gu Nianji blurted out, "Did you go on a date with someone today?" Wu Xiaoheng was speechless. He leaned forward and rested his arms on his legs. He asked calmly, "Why do you ask?" "Of course there's a reason." Gu Nianji bit her lip and said reluctantly, "I saw the photo." Wu Xiaoheng sensitively thought of Xie Dezhao and Xie Qingying. He had specifically gone to the European-style cafe to see Xie Dezhao. However, when he came out, Xie Qingying also came over to talk to him. What photo? Wu Xiaoheng didn't plan on telling Gu Nianji about the Xies. Gu Xiangwen hadn't found out yet, and he didn't want the Xies to know about Gu Nianji's relationship with them. "If it was me, you should tell the person who took the photo that it's illegal and the consequences will be severe." Gu Nianji thought about Miao Yunxiao's mocking expression and giggled. She said sourly, "Not only that, but I also heard that the organization is going to matchmake you, right? My classmates are calling you cousin-in-law?" Wu Xiaoheng was a bit surprised. If Gu Nianji had previously made him feel like a child throwing a tantrum because she couldn't get candy, her words now forced him to take her seriously. "Who told you that?" Wu Xiaoheng asked calmly. "You're taking it seriously when I don't even know about it?" "I didn't take it seriously, but I'm worried that if we continue like this, the organization will really introduce you to a girlfriend." Gu Nianji felt her nose sting again. She quickly let go of the pillow and took a tissue from the small table next to the sofa to wipe her nose. She said in a muffled voice, "Then what do you plan to do? Accept it? Or accept it?" Or accept it? So it was about that. Hua Xiaoheng refused to admit that he was relieved. If Gu Nianji had asked him this a few days ago, he really wouldn't have known how to answer. But now he had an idea. I already have a girlfriend. Why would they introduce me to one? Hua Xiaoheng asked her calmly. Your information isn't reliable. Don't listen to other people's gossip in the future. Gu Nianji was speechless at his words. Hua Xiao, you won't tell me anything. How can I not listen to other people's gossip? Gu Nianji muttered quietly, but because it was the first time Hua Xiaoheng had said the word girlfriend, her heart was already blooming with happiness. Had she finally seen the light of day? Hua Xiaoheng thought about it for a while and gently flicked his fingers on his thigh. He said quietly, Nianji, stop fooling around. It's too late. I'm already fooling around. Gu Nianji hugged the little panda pillow and rolled around on the sofa. Tell me, how are you going to coax me? Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. He discovered that Gu Nianji was becoming bolder and bolder in front of him. She could even say something like that so openly. She wanted him to coax her and said it so confidently. Hua Xiaoheng clasped his hands together to support his chin. His elbows rested on his thighs as he leaned forward on the metal bench. He waited quietly for a while before asking, what's going on with the photos? He wanted to clarify these two matters before speaking. Gu Nianji was in the mood to talk and told him about Miao Yunxiao showing off the photos. She then complained, she thinks I'm your kept woman and keeps being jealous of me. Hua Xiaoheng chuckled quietly. Then are you willing to be my kept woman? Gu Nianji was speechless. Oh my. Was Hua Xiao flirting with her just now? Gu Nianji was drunk from listening to him. Gu Nianji's heart thumped wildly, and a warm current instantly flowed through her limbs and bones. The dry fields were suddenly flooded with rain, and she felt full of life again. Oh. Gu Nianji's eyes sparkled. Her petite face was very charming. Keeping a kept woman is an illicit relationship. I want to have a legitimate relationship with you. Simply put, I want to be your girlfriend. Hua Xiaoheng imagined Gu Nianji's high spirits when she said this and was a bit intoxicated. This child had grown up and was difficult to discipline. It wasn't easy being a parent, but why was he so happy with it? Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Hua Xiaoheng relented and gave Gu Nianji a hopeful future. Fortunately, Gu Nianji understood him. If he said he was thinking about it at this point with other women, they would definitely explode. However, Gu Nianji knew that when Hua Xiaoheng said he was thinking about it, it meant he was going to do it soon. He wouldn't say he was thinking about something unless he was 100% sure. Really? Gu Nianji was overjoyed and stood up from the sofa. Really? I'm thinking about it. Hua Xiaoheng nodded and stood up from the metal bench to walk towards the office. The stars in the sky were even brighter and his mood brightened as he looked at them. Gu Nianji wanted to take a mile when she was in a good mood. She asked in a roundabout way, Hua Xiao, are you still working overtime tomorrow? Tomorrow was Saturday, so everyone was usually off. Hua Xiaoheng put his hands in his trouser pockets and slowly walked forward. I still have some work to finish. What's wrong? Is there something? No, yeah, there is. Gu Nianji stammered. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Do you have any plans? Hua Xiaoheng paused and said calmly, I never celebrate Western holidays. Did you forget? Gu Nianji remembered. She really had forgotten before. She had been blinded by the atmosphere stirred up by her classmates. She lowered her head in shame and quickly found an excuse to save face. I remember now. I have to prepare my thesis tomorrow and was worried I wouldn't be able to leave. Yeah, study hard. Hua Xiaoheng praised her and walked into the office. He saw a few subordinates coming over to report to him. Hua Xiaoheng said to Gu Nianji, okay, I still have something to do. I'm going to hang up now. Gu Nianji looked at her phone and saw that Hua Xiaoheng had already hung up. She lay on the bed for a while and waited for her mood to recover before opening the door and walking out. Ma Qiqi was completely drunk under the table. Gu Nianji was angry and amused at the same time. She helped her up and sent her back to her room to sleep. Gu Nianji went to take a shower again and washed off the smell of beer and fried chicken from her body before going to bed. Although it was a bit of a pity that there would be no program on Valentine's Day tomorrow, she could still understand that Hua Xiaoheng's work came first. As long as she could be with him openly, it didn't matter if she didn't celebrate Valentine's Day for the rest of her life. Hua Xiaoheng returned to his office and listened to his subordinates' reports. He pointed out a few directions for them to continue researching. Yin Shixiang came in with a stack of documents and said to Hua Xiaoheng, Hua Xiao, little Zay won't be here tomorrow. Are these all for you? Hua Xiaoheng turned around from his chair and asked Yin Shixiang, "Has little Zay already started his vacation?" "No, it only starts after midnight." Yin Shixiang laughed. "What's wrong? Is Hua Xiaoheng regretting it?" Hua Xiaoheng looked at him coolly. "Get him to help me get a phone number." Gu Nianji had just given Miao Yunxiao's phone number to Hua Xiaoheng in order to show that she wasn't being unreasonable and had the truth behind the photos. She told him that there were photos of Hua Xiaoheng and a woman at a cafe on that phone. Hua Xiaoheng knew that it had to do with Xie Qingying, but he couldn't say that it was completely groundless. He understood Speaker Long's intentions, but he couldn't accept it. However, when he thought of Xie Qingying's appearance, Hua Xiaoheng was still a bit worried that Gu Nianji would overthink things after seeing the photos. Yin Shixiang called Zhao Liangzi over and gave him the phone number that Hua Xiaoheng wanted to find. Zhao Liangzi accessed Miao Yunxiao's phone in less than 10 minutes and found her photo album. The photos of Hua Xiaoheng, Xie Qingying, and Xie Dezhao were all taken recently, so he found it immediately. He downloaded the 2 photos and emailed them to his own email, then completely deleted the photos from Miao Yunxiao's phone as well as the photos stored in her cloud account. However, when Zhao Liangzi deleted the photos Miao Yunxiao had uploaded to the cloud account, he found a few photos of Miao Yunxiao and Su Piaohong. He showed Hua Xiaoheng the photo album he downloaded and said, "Hua Xiao, this policewoman Su looks pretty good. I think she's better than Xie Qingying." Zhao Liangzi winked at Yin Shixiang as he spoke. Yin Shixiang quickly agreed, "Miss Su is pretty good, but Miss Xie will definitely not pass the background check." Xie Qingying had grown up overseas and was a foreign citizen. With a background like that, she would never be the wife of a high-ranking military official. Speaker Long was probably too excited to do anything and was only trying to stop Hua Xiaoheng from having anything to do with Gu Nianji. But it was too late, the relationship could no longer be broken. Hua Xiaoheng ordered Zhao Liangzi, "Go investigate Deputy Chief of Staff Su. She's so good at currying favor, there seems to be a problem." Zhao Liangzi quickly said, "I'll investigate when I come back tomorrow after my vacation, okay?" "Okay, there's no rush. You go on vacation first." Hua Xiaoheng waved his hand to dismiss Zhao Liangzi. Yin Shixiang watched Zhao Liangzi's hurried back and laughed. "Hua Xiao, little Zay has finally figured it out. He's planning a secret Valentine's Day surprise and even invited his sweetheart for dinner." Hua Xiaoheng rubbed his temples with his right hand and thought for a while before asking, "Valentine's Day? Why is everyone celebrating Western holidays now? From Christmas to Valentine's Day, and now there's Halloween. Is there going to be Thanksgiving in the future?" "Hua Xiao, you don't understand. Young girls all like this, and on this day they'll even compare their boyfriends' looks, money, cars and gifts. Basically, as soon as Valentine's Day comes, their WeChat moments will be flooded with all sorts of roses, chocolates and diamond rings. For single people, Valentine's Day is #1 on the list of killer singles." Yin Shixiang said excitedly, "Oh, I want to find someone to celebrate Valentine's Day with." Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. After a while he asked, "Does everyone celebrate this holiday in college?" Of course, this holiday started in college. Colleges are the hardest hit places for Valentine's Day. Yin Shixiang took out his phone and found a random college website to show Hua Xiaoheng. "Look, they even want to hang 2 big red hearts at the school gates. Anyone who sees it will cry." Hua Xiaoheng glanced at it and realized it was Gu Nianji's B University. He looked down. "You can go now." After Yin Shixiang left, Hua Xiaoheng held a pen in his hand and poked it unconsciously on the desk. Finally, he gripped the pen and made a difficult decision. On Saturday morning, Gu Nianji woke up early and bought 2 sets of breakfast. She left one on the table for Ma Qiqi and ate one for herself. Then she knocked on Ma Qiqi's door. "Qiqi, I'm going to the library to study. Breakfast is on the table. Eat it yourself." Inside, Ma Qiqi had a splitting headache. She held her head and wailed to show that she understood. Gu Nianji smiled as she walked out the door. She purposely woke up early so she could avoid those bored people who like to pry into other people's private lives. Yes, she was talking about Miao Yunxiao. Gu Nianji thought to herself maliciously. Gu Nianji really didn't pay attention to the outside world in the library and only focused on reading. Other than buying a burger for lunch, she didn't go out at all. In the evening, she received a call from Yin Shixiang saying someone had delivered something to her. She quickly packed her bag and left the library. Riding her bike back to the dorm, Gu Nianji noticed many girls pointing at an eye-catching car. She peeked out and saw it looked like a sports car. From the logo, it was probably a Ferrari. A tall man in a casual suit with wide shoulders and a narrow waist leaned against the car door with his hands in his pockets. He looked ahead expressionlessly, ignoring the girls who were passing by and pointing at him. That man was Huashaoheng. Gunyanji's eyes widened and her mouth almost fell open. She watched in a daze as Huashaoheng walked closer and reached out his hand. "I'm here to pick you up for Valentine's Day." Gunyanji asked dumbfoundedly, "Don't you never celebrate overseas holidays?" "Yes, but for you I can make an exception." Huashaoheng calmly held her hand. This was the second installment of 5,000 words. Reminders for the monthly and recommendation votes. "Sorry, I miscalculated, I'll have to wait until tomorrow." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.